Good morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. I'm Mike Graham and this is the Mike Graham Show. And before we do anything else, I've just seen Scott the Builder in the car park, right, here at our studios. And Scott the Builder is the backbone of Great Britain. Him and his sons, who up and at them about 5 o'clock every morning, building things, paying taxes, making sure that the country runs properly, making sure that when you need something done, they get on with it, right? A big fan of the show. So Scott the Builder, very good morning to you. Welcome to Friday, the 14th of August, and welcome to a brand new dawn. Why? Because Nigel Farage has just won the Clacton by-election. Now, those of you who are watching this morning will go, well, of course he did. Well, yeah, but hang on. A few details I think you'll find will be quite good to look at, because it looks as though, for example, once again, the mainstream media have got it completely and utterly wrong. Got it completely and utterly around us, because, you know, we just did 2 days in Clacton, which was amazing, right? I want to thank everybody down in Clacton for helping us to do 2 magnificent shows. Wednesday night, where we managed to get an exclusive interview with Nigel Farage, when nobody else could do it, right? We did a show yesterday morning, which I think has now hit something like 140,000 views, maybe more.
Interview over 100,000.
Yeah, Nigel Farage interview's gone over 100,000. Absolutely going viral, right? Amazingly, not one person from the mainstream media thought it was worthy of picking up. Dan Wootton, a man who knows a thing or two about news, picked it up last night and did a load of clips from our interview with Nigel. And he, you know, obviously had a view on it, and he wasn't particularly happy with some of the things that Nigel Farage had said about Rupert Lowe. But, you know, Nigel Farage talks about Rupert Lowe. He talks about the danger that he's been in over time, the fact that he's been interviewed several times now by the counter-terrorism police, the fact that there might be some connection to Anne Widdecombe's death and a firebombing attack on his house some time before. You know, there was so much in the interview that he gave me, what he plans to do, how he's going to go forward with all the rest of his political career, you know, and yet not one person from the, you know, the Times, they can't stop writing about Nigel Farage, right? Didn't pick up any of it, didn't bother. Why? Because they don't want to. All week and all month we were being told, oh, it's going to be a terrible scenario for Nigel Farage. He might lose, you know, that Wally. What's his name? Anthony, what's his name? I don't know, the guy I don't like to mention. Oh, Jonathan Harvey. Yeah, Jonathan Harvey, the bloke that puts a bin on his face and thinks, clever, very clever. I'm very clever. I work for the BBC and I've written very funny jokes for Have I Got News for You? Just say Boris Johnson, everybody falls about laughing. Well, he, right, did probably well enough to come second. But people were actually saying there's a chance that Nigel Farage might lose in Clacton. I never thought he would. They also said there'll be a very low turnout. And of course, that turned out not to be true either. There was not a low turnout at all. In fact, the turnout was higher than the most recent by-elections over the past 20 or 30 years. Something like 44% of a turnout, which is massive for a by-election. So, you know, once again, Nigel Farage proves the naysayers wrong. Once again, Nigel Farage wins. He didn't actually go to the count himself because he was warned by the Essex police that there was a plot to somehow disrupt his victory speech, and which would also, you know, be a problem for him, be difficult for him. So, you know, at the end of the day, you just kind of go, how much more of this nonsense does he have to put up with?
Why isn't that the headline, Mike?
Yeah.
He can't go to the bloody count because of a...
He can't go to the count.
On the front page
Exactly.
of the papers?
He can't go to the count, as Pooch quite rightly says, because there's a threat of disrupting him, right? Can you imagine, in any other place, in any other party, where the leader of that party was banned from going somewhere because of the fact that people wanted to do him harm or to do him wrong? What's wrong with this country? What is wrong with society? What is wrong with the establishment? I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's run by scumbags. It's run by lefties. It's run by people who... Do you know what these lefties are, by the way? And Pooch will appreciate this. These are people who were in school, who used to kind of like hide in the corner and not actually have any cojones to do anything. You'd never get in a fight with them because they'd be too frightened to fight you. But they would try and, like, you know, tell tales on you.
And now they're bullies.
And now they're the bullies of the world, right? There's something wrong, intrinsically wrong, with the society in which we live, because these people have somehow found themselves in charge of us. And these are the same people that tell us, oh, don't light a barbecue because you might set fire to the grass. And, you know, don't drive your car more than 20 miles an hour because, you know, you might kill the planet. Oh, don't walk across the road unless you're at a zebra crossing. Bugger off, all right? I'm going to walk across the road when I feel like it. I'm going to drive my car at 120 miles an hour if I want to. And I'm actually going to vote for Nigel Farage as well. How do you like that? Let's talk to Lembit Opik and see what he's got to say for himself. Lembit, very good morning to you, sir.
Good result. I like your soliloquy. And just to add to the moaning, I'd like to apologise for not being there in person. But South Western Railway have decided to cancel the trains. It's pathetic.
Oh, what? Because they all fancied having a day off. They all fancied having a day off, presumably, right?
No, it's because they can't handle the truth. If I was in that studio, we'd be forming a circle and fighting out. You're absolutely 100% right. I am incensed by the idea that, oh, well, Nigel Farage won, so let's talk about the wildfires and imply that it's about climate change. If Count Binface had been any closer to winning, that would be in the headline. Oh, Farage's days are over. The comedy script writer, presumably he's part of the Wokerati in the BBC. Oh, he was the great hero who brought down Nigel Farage. It's insane. The BBC want to forget it already. You know, one of their pieces on the internet says muted response to Nigel Farage's victory. They're writing that themselves. They're writing
the vote's gone up.
We decided to give it a muted response.
I think I'm right in saying the vote that happened yesterday is higher. The number of people who actually voted for Farage is higher than it was in 2024. So his vote has actually gone up, which is counter to everything they said would happen. They said it would be a low turnout. They said no doubt he will win. However, it will probably be a very much lower number of people that vote for him. The number of people that voted for him has gone up, and they're not reporting it.
Psephology, which is the posh word for saying I haven't got enough friends, so I look at election statistics. The psephology tells us this. His vote's up by about 1,000. Doesn't sound like very much. He's gone up from about 20, very roughly speaking, 21,000 votes to 22,000 votes.
Yes.
But the turnout is pretty respectable, 44%, but it's still less than last time. So he's actually got a huge jump. The important thing is, huge jump in the share of the vote. He got 63%. Now, you might say, well, that's because he was against Binface. He wasn't against Binface. He was against the establishment uni party, which hid behind Binface, and they were campaigning for Binface, so that the Tories, Labour, and Lib Dems all were desperate for John Harvey. Let's call him by his real name.
I don't use the word Binface on this show, by the way, so I'm just going to warn you now. If you say it again, we're going to have to cut you off. So you'll be referred to as Jonathan Harvey.
I'm too narcissistic to risk that, so we'll call him Harvey from now. Jonathan Harvey, a man who's obviously going to get benefit for his comedy career from this, but Jonathan Harvey doesn't like it when you treat him out of character. I was speaking to Nick Delves, Nick the incredible flying brick for the Monster Raving Loonies. He actually met Harvey at one of the other by-elections, and when he started treating Harvey like a real person, Harvey didn't like it. And actually asked, what do you want a photograph for? I mean, come on, man. So he was actually the establishment. What kind of world do we live in now, Mike Graham, where the establishment have to hide behind a trash can? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
It is.
Now, they've got a problem because, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but if Farage is forced into another by-election, it's theoretically possible, what do they do then? Because I just can't see anyone beating Nigel. At that point, he regains the initiative. And whether you think this by-election was a good or a bad idea, there's something more positive about this than I expected. I would have advised Farage not to do this. But maybe actually, but even if it's by accident, he's done something quite useful here. Because he said, let's do 2 fingers to the establishment. And the biggest revelation is exactly the point you've made, Mike. The mainstream can't stand the fact that they couldn't pull Farage down again. They did this right through the Donald Trump campaign as well. Oh, yes, Kamala Harris has a chance of winning. No, she didn't. And nobody had a chance of beating Farage here. But as you saw yourself when you were in Clacton, he's an incredibly popular guy. Now they're saying, I saw this pathetic interview this morning, pathetic on the BBC's, with some guy moaning a history of Essex or something he'd written. And he was saying, he's not been at surgery, he's not been... I don't care what this guy thinks. He's obviously not a Reform voter. So get him off the television. Whatever happened
Well, they go around. No, but they go around looking for these people. They go around like sort of harvesting, anybody they can find to be a negative source or a soundboard against Nigel Farage. As I said, I was literally walking down the road. People were honking their horns at me, not because I was Nigel Farage's greatest supporter, but because they liked the Mike Graham show. And they're very ordinary, basic, interesting people. They like Nigel Farage. They think the BBC and the mainstream media are a complete and utter waste of time. And that, to a large extent, is very much a microcosm of what Britain is now becoming. Because people are looking at the BBC and going, you people have got it completely wrong. They keep getting it wrong. And, we got Nigel Farage on the show on Wednesday night. We had a fantastic show on Wednesday night. Do you know we've got 140,000 views on a piece, the Thursday morning show? We've got another 75,000 views on the Nigel Farage interview. The mainstream media can't cope with the fact that we and others are simply wiping them off the face of the earth because they couldn't get... Somebody said to me, Newsnight, the best thing they could do was to get James May on from Top Gear to talk about the Clacton by-election. We're interviewing the main man and they're interviewing James May. That tells you all you need to know.
I was half asleep the other night.
Brian May. Oh, was it Brian May? I think so. Oh, it wasn't. Oh, so it wasn't James May. It was Brian May from Queen. Even worse.
I'm not sure if I dreamt or if I actually saw it, but I have this vague idea that I saw Jonathan Harvey being interviewed on the BBC. The biggest concern on Newsnight, the biggest concern is it may have been a dream, it may have been real. Because either way, it was a fake interview. Who cares? Who gives a toss what Jonathan Harvey thinks about politics?
Exactly.
And also, there's something rather wrong about them interviewing and credibly treating somebody who works for the BBC. Now, the reason that you're getting horn honking is because actually you're pretty good at what you do, Mike. And it's interesting. We're in this situation because the mainstream media, for a trivial reason, forced you out. But look at the blessing of that. It means that, like Nigel Farage, like Reform UK, you're part of the vanguard, which is trying to regain this country for the sake of the public. 90% of the public don't talk about politics very often. And they're much more likely to be on your side than on the BBC side or all the other self-appointed pontificators. And that's why people are honking horns for you, because actually you're an ordinary person as well. It also implies to me you did not carry out your mortal threat to wear Speedos and go swimming in Clacton. That probably
I did, because I was actually frightened that the sun was so fierce that I might have burned parts of me that have not seen the sun for some time. And I wasn't.
That's a pathetic excuse.
And also I couldn't convince Charlotte to rub suntan oil on me before I went into the water. So we literally, we don't purr enough, as she said. We walked out to the end of it was the end of the pier show. And we walked out to the end of the pier and actually found somebody who looked a bit suspiciously like a BBC correspondent talking into a phone and delivering his view of what was going to happen the next day. Very, very funny. But no, listen, Clacton was a revelation for us because we saw what the seaside resorts of Britain are really like. I'm a big fan of seaside resorts. I know that they're a little bit run down and they're a little bit sort of people look down their noses. But the London cognoscenti hate places like Clacton. They feel kind of, slightly grubby about going there. And you can tell that when you see anybody from the Times or the BBC, they're all kind of going, oh, look, there are some horrible people here. Look over there, there's some people eating hamburgers and drinking cheap beer in Wetherspoons. Isn't that awful? They're ashamed of their own country, these people.
Yes, I'd like some of that guacamole. It's actually mushy peas.
Mushy peas, yes. Fish and chips. Oh, no, we don't like fish and chips. It's not very healthy for us. These people are the ruination of Britain, and it's now time for us to march on them and start the revolution and go, sorry, guys, you're out, and we're all coming for you.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is all we have to do is give people the confidence to speak up. How many times do you hear people say, I really like what you said on the telly, Mike or Lembit?
Yeah.
I can't really say so myself because if I say that at work, I could get into trouble.
Yes.
Or the worst one, they say, I'd love to say what you say, but if I said that, I'm worried I'll get arrested. What's happened to free speech?
I know.
But the worst thing about it is the point you've made. I worked for the BBC properly for 7 years. Great training. From a technical point of view, they are brilliant. It was just a masterclass in production and presentation, and I wouldn't take that away from them. But in terms of their values, they've completely abandoned their original charter,
Yeah.
which is to be objective. I was incensed, and I know it's not what we're mainly talking about, but I was incensed last night when I watched, again on Newsnight, them going on about the climate emergency caused by human-generated carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
That's utter crud. It can't happen.
Right.
Human beings add 1 atom per million of CO2 every decade. Now, I don't think the atmosphere really notices
but
that.
they say it as if it's true. And, you know, I don't mind people. I mean, I'm very happy for somebody to go on the BBC and postulate that there may be something happening which is man-made. You know, make the theory, you know, try and convince me that it's true. But don't say it as though it's true, as if it's a news report, you know, that caused by man-made climate change, you know, and all that. I've got a very interesting interjection here from Slides, who sent us a super chat for £1.99. I'm not sure if you want to answer this. When do we get invites to Lembit's sauna? Is what it says.
Well, it'll cost you more than £1.99, but it is negotiable.
Yeah,
it is. And it's like a sauna. I have to
There's a
tell
coin
you.
in the meter. I mean, it was like a sauna in my apartment at the moment. This is rather warm, I have to say. It's really difficult. Speaking of which, we should also take account of some of the rubbish on the front pages this morning about houses burning, trains derailing, the hottest day of the year. You know, apparently it's all terrible. We're all going to die in a massive inferno. What is going on with the way that the news is being reported at the moment?
Well, what it is, apart from the fact I realised, I feel like I'm looking down at you like Big Brother with my other home, the space station behind
Yes.
me here. But what we've got is a desperate desire by atheists to create a new religion called the climate emergency. Da, da, da. Human-generated CO2 is creating fires. It's basically telling you that at 36 Celsius, the grass is happy, but at 38 Celsius, it spontaneously combusts and incinerates itself as a Stourbridge or something. Very bad for the people who live there, of course. Human beings are involved because human beings are arsonists. And then it's on television all day, and then the arsonists get the idea, oh, well, let's set fires or something because it's going to burn really well. And those are the same kind of knackerheads that you were describing earlier on. But it's because it's dramatic. And think about this now. It's not just the heat they're blaming, it's the drought. But lo and behold, a few years ago, we were told that the flooding was being caused by human-generated carbon dioxide.
Oh, yes.
The opposite effect. And then they said, oh, yes, the blizzards are being caused by human-generated carbon dioxide. It can't have the same cause having completely opposite effects. Droughts, storms, calm, heat, cold. What it's generating is some kind of a mental meltdown in the BBC and the wokerati, who are perfectly happy to fly around in their tens of thousands in aeroplanes to tell us not to fly.
I know.
That's another thing. It's
Yeah,
good to see.
and
I mean,
you know what's going to happen. I mean, in fact, we may not have the poll ready yet, but if we do have the poll ready, could we put it up? Do we have it ready?
One sec.
She says one sec. It would be
Can't
easier
get
if you
staff
were rubbing
these
me
days,
down
can
with sun cream. But anyway, the idea is that, you know, what is the most likely cause of all of these fires? And to be honest, Lembit, as you know as well as I do, the most likely cause is somebody setting fire to something. But what's least likely to cause a fire? A nuclear explosion, the fire bombers. Should be fire bombers. You've got it wrong. Should fire bombers.
Autocorrect, I'll change it.
And you don't want to autocorrect. Is that the Starmer autocorrect you've got?
Yeah.
Fire bombers, an Exocet missile, a warm day. Basically, everybody knows that whenever there is a problem, oh, here comes the Mike Graham Show dog scenario, which is lovely. Thank you very much indeed. We took that with us to. Also, have you got that other thing, the round one? We could put that behind me, couldn't we? Everybody knows the reason there are so many fires that get started is not because the world is spontaneously combusting, it's because some bozo has either set fire to the ground because they've used a barbecue of some description, or they put a cigarette out. You know, it's always human interaction that causes these things.
Yobbos, who in their disempowered, never went to school or paid attention kind of way, set fire to stuff because they saw the telly that there could be wildfires. And they go, look at that. We just did that. I went.
It's a good noise. I like that noise.
Well, you can have it for free. It's not copyrighted. But basically, last year I was in Corfu, or the year before, when we had some incredibly stupid things being said. I think somebody on Sky said that Corfu was alight because of sparks from Rhodes. Rhodes is like 400 miles away.
Yeah.
And then basically I went from the south of the island to the north because I was there actually for business, a happy place to go for work. And I said, how many wildfires have you had? He said, well, he pointed at a house and he said, well, that one burned down. I said, what caused that? He said, it was an insurance claim. And I was this, there was no other fire.
I mean, in Clacton, right, I was walking between the two hotels that we were doing a show in one hotel. I was staying in another hotel. There was a shisha bar, which looked as if it had been burned down quite recently. And the first thing I said was, probably an insurance claim, or some kind of dispute with the local mafia, But basically not caused by the fact that, it's a very hot day, and we've had the hottest day recorded in the world's history, 38 degrees in Kew Gardens. Absolutely, that's a balderdash. Nonsense.
The actual heat record in the UK, something like 40 Celsius briefly at RAF Coningsby. Do you know what was happening when they measured that temperature? 3 Typhoon aircraft were taking off.
Right.
And it's from the jet wash. That's what happened. It's complete rubbish. Yeah,
now, listen.
Justin Rowlatt, who I think is a complete idiot, not qualified.
Oh, my God. The man is a complete moron. Complete moron. And we're paying his salary, which is even more ridiculous. I mean, we're the morons because we're paying his salary.
One time, I had this tiny victory over him a few weeks ago. He was talking his usual rubbish, and he said, so I can't remember quite what it was, but it was so wrong. I've been studying climatology. I haven't got a qualification, but I had my first thing published on this in 1980 when I was 15, and it turned out to be right, what I'd been writing. And I saw him say such rubbish that I ridiculed him on X. And obviously, and I got like about 50,000 hits in about half an hour. And he basically was dragged back to do a new piece. And he realized I could tell it was because of my ex, because he didn't know what he was talking about. But he's having to recount the set piece. This is the face of climate change and all this. And suddenly he was well, it's not quite like that, actually. And the guy, he just incenses me. You're right. He gets paid. No, we have to earn our crust. We have to be good enough for people to switch on. He's just got the TV license. There you go, Justin. And then the irony, he gets in a helicopter to fly over some part of Scotland to say this is the effect of climate change. Why don't you have a drone? Why don't you not go there at all, Justin Rowlatt?
Yeah.
And why do they have a travel show? On the one side, they're telling us, you mustn't get in the plane because the world will spontaneously combust at 38 Celsius. And then they say, we've got the travel show. And you've got people lying in the top of Victoria Falls or something. The ironies are breathtaking.
I know. It really, because I'm so sick and tired of these, fanciful, self-aggrandizing, middle-class tosspots. Forgive me for saying such a thing. I've just had enough of them. Telling us what we should be thinking, telling us what we should be doing, telling us what we should be eating, telling us what we should be drinking. Just stop. Stop advising us and stop telling us that you know better than we do, because you don't, quite frankly.
That's right.
And you need to just bugger off.
Yeah, that's right. And basically, that's the one reason I'm so angry this morning is I really wanted to be in the studio. What affects me far more than all this climate change baloney is, how is it that Southwestern trains can just cancel a couple of trains?
Well, I'm sorry to, we shouldn't probably make fun of it as such, and I'm not planning to make fun of it because people have been injured quite badly. But you should be thankful that at least the train that you couldn't get on hasn't turned over on its side and been somehow, driven into a field, as in the Southern Railway Service, where down near Lewis, which is a place I know well, they somehow lost the train, it went off the track. They're trying to say that it might have been because of the hot weather, but I very much doubt that will end up being the case. And by the time we actually find out what happened, everyone will have forgotten that it happened.
And they'll have forgotten the fact that the hot weather was blamed.
Yeah.
There's a great phrase: a person with a hammer sees everything as a nail. That's what they do with the climate. And by the way, the other reason I'm so angry is just as soon as the announcement has been made, I've been up since about 4, like you. I've got a bit of an anorak when it comes to politics, and also we both know Nigel, so it's interesting to see what your friend's up to on television. Very prudent of him not to go to the count, by the way.
I agree.
Clever
but how
move.
ridiculous that we've got to a place, is it not, Lembit, where he hasn't gone to the count, not because he's being petulant, not because he's being precious, but because he was warned by the Essex police that there were people there who wished to disrupt his speech and wish to disrupt his very existence. And if you're Nigel Farage, knowing what happened to Anne Widdecombe, you don't want to go anywhere near that.
That's right. A couple of things. They've totally whitewashed the result by talking about all this climate change rubbish.
Yeah.
And that really made me angry, because it's, okay, well, he won. And now let's talk about these houses. And it is tragic if your house has been torched by either arsonists or natural phenomena. It'll be arsonists, I would say, or people careless with cigarettes on the golf course or something. But the point about the not turning up, I was very worried. And I said so publicly. I'm worried that the biggest damage this could have done to Nigel Farage is have him standing there next to my mate, Nick the Incredible Flying Brick, Howling Lord Hope, and Count Binfay. And John Harvey. Sorry, John Harvey. Didn't get to the last syllable, so that doesn't count.
Yes.
But basically, surrounded by those people. So forever he'll be besmirched by that stupid photo. That I hadn't considered. That he would therefore not go. He's actually done absolutely the right thing. Now, is there a security threat? Yeah, there could be. Now, the BBC's falling over itself to say, but Essex Police said it gave no such advice. I could have given that advice. Everybody knows that Nigel is not a free man. Right. He doesn't live a free life. You know yourself that when you're with him, he has that security. And he has to have it because the establishment can't.
Yeah. Well, do you know what I thought this morning?
People.
Do you know what I thought this morning, Lambert? And it hadn't occurred to me because we were very thrilled and excited to be in Clacton, and we didn't know that Nigel was going to pop into the show until about half an hour before he did it, because they made that decision. They made sure that they sent the security guys down, and I suddenly thought to myself, there I was sitting in a hotel sort of restaurant, or a venue, if you like. And my life was in danger then, because I was interviewing the man whom people want to kill. And I thought to myself, and I haven't mentioned this to Charlotte, but I thought to myself, I was actually in a dangerous situation. And I'm not squeamish. I've been in war zones. I've been in difficult places. I've covered all sorts of stories where bad things could have happened. But it sort of suddenly hit me that there I was, just doing my job, sitting, talking to a man who just doing his job, but yet both of us, under those circumstances, were at risk of being murdered. And you think, right. And it's quite a chilling thought when you think about it.
You're right. I actually, here's how I see it, and it's a dark comment. I was Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland for a decade, and I was dealing with not people who maybe did harm, people who killed, people who planted bombs. I was safer, in my opinion, as Shadow Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, going there, dealing with paramilitaries, than Nigel is every day walking around Britain. Yeah. That's the change. And literally the people, they put their guns out for effect and so forth. But there was more safety for me then than Nigel Farage has walking around now. This is insanity. But of course, that's because he is shaking the tree. He's rocking the boat. Yeah. People say, oh, he's become establishment. There is something about being an MP. You kind of get slightly seduced by it, and you don't realize it's happening just because the incredible institutional pressure. But nevertheless, compare Farage to what we've got, like Starmer and all the others. He's obviously frightening the horses, otherwise he wouldn't be under permanent threat. And it's exhausting. I mean, I have to say that sometimes I worry he's just going to say, I've had enough of this. Yeah. I was released whenever I met somebody in Oxford Street after I lost my seat, and she said, didn't you used to be Lembetopic? Then I felt liberated. Yes. But until then...
No, listen, I'm the same as you. I mean, when I was talking to him, and I was really encouraged, actually, because he was so... Because we've heard, again, because there's so many lies now being peddled by the mainstream media, by the Times, saying he's beleaguered, he's hiding, he's horribly upset, he can't do what he normally does because he can't go out, blah, blah, blah. And I was actually really encouraged to see that he was, in fact, not only very positive, but very enthusiastic. Because he said himself in the interview, and we'll play some clips from it today, that, he doesn't have to do what he's doing. He could retire, he could go to America, he could make a fortune, as you well know, on the speaking circuit over there. He doesn't need to do what he's doing, but he's doing it because he cares. He cares about the country, and he cares. And I'm not a fanboy. There are things that he does which are wrong sometimes. There are things that he gets wrong in judgments that he's made, people that he maybe hangs around with, all of that. But the point is that he cares about this country, and he has been the single most successful politician, in my view, in my lifetime, because of all the things that have been achieved as a result of Nigel Farage being Nigel Farage.
You're right, and absolutely. And he can make a fortune in public speaking. It behoves me. I feel obliged to say I do public speaking too, but I'm cheaper than he is. So do get in touch with me on
Yes.
X if you want.
Yeah,
me to do a
listen.
speech.
Yeah, but even you must be surprised, Lembit, as I have been whenever I've been offered to do. There's an amazing amount of money available for you to do this kind of stuff, and you have people. You know, people might think of you as the man that used to date the cheeky girls, but actually you've had a series of very important jobs in your life, and you've had some very interesting, associations with various different governments, with different organisations, and you are what I would regard, and I don't wish to take this the wrong way, a man of some substance, and therefore, of course, people would want to hear what you've got to say, and good luck to you. But imagine if every time you walked out the front door, you were worried that somebody was going to shoot you. You might not come out every now and again.
You're right. In a sense, I came out of politics inadvertently in 2010, but just in time. I did a whole series, and you'd love doing cruise ships if you ever have the time to do speeches. I had this speech called, after I came out of the jungle, I'm an ex-MP, get me out of here. People used to come along to see how bad I was. The biggest inverted compliment I had was from some Tory in the audience who said, I thought you'd be terrible, but you're not as bad as I thought. And I thought all I had to do to impress people was be average.
I had a similar conversation with Tobias Elwood. I was at a party once, and he turned up, and we started talking. And he sort of said, I can't actually say what he actually said, but he said, you're not the C word that I thought you were. And I went, no, of course I'm not.
You should say, yes, I am.
Yeah, I should have punched him in the face. But it was actually, as much as many people in the audience will go, I hate Tobias Elwood. He was actually quite a nice guy. But let me talk to you about the biggest story of the day, because this is going to drive me mad, and I'm going to make a declaration during the show today that I'm going to give up, and I'm sorry I haven't got anything to tear up, because I'd like to tear it up, my Vodafone account. Because on the front page of the Daily Telegraph today, Reform UK has accused Vodafone of facilitating the invasion of Britain after it emerged that the company has supplied free SIM cards to channel migrants, right? The telecoms giant has given 2,500 SIM cards loaded with 6 months of free data to Care for Calais, a refugee charity for use by migrants who arrive in the UK. Why? Why?
Unbelievable.
Why am I paying £50 a month to a company that is giving away free data to these scumbag migrants?
Well, it's not giving free data. You're paying for the data.
Yeah.
That's the point. This is a tax on Brits in order to, once again, further facilitate the attractions of throwing your passport in the sea in the middle of the channel, having gone through half a dozen safe countries, and then claiming asylum because they won't let you back into your country because of some unspeakable act you did before you left.
Yeah.
And now they get SIM cards. You have
In
to
fact,
say...
do you know what I'm going to do? I think I can do this, because I did it yesterday when I found out that the tax man has stuck the money out of my bank account because I forgot to close off a direct debit, right? So now I'm going to do this, Pooch. I don't know if you're aware of this. Sorry, Pooch is gone. I'm going to go onto my NatWest banking account, right? And I'm going to cancel my direct debit with Vodafone live on air, because I don't wish to give these scumbags any more of my money, right? So I'm going to go into my account. Oh, that's good. Oh, look, the tax money's come back in. I'm going to go to my bank account. It says, where is it? Direct debits. And we go down.
You're going to do it right now?
I'm doing it now as we speak. Vodafone Limited. There's two, actually. In fact, there's three. How have I got three? Right, I'm going to close them all down. Close them all down, because I don't wish to any longer contribute to paying them. Status, cancelled. Status, cancelled. Status, cancelled. Yep, I've cancelled them all.
That is a statement live on air to the country about what happens when a private company makes a politically motivated decision without consulting its customers.
Its customers, yeah. I do not approve of this behaviour. I do not wish for some scumbag from Afghanistan who may or may not have raped a child to arrive on Dover's shores, having been rescued by the RNLI, to be given a free phone and to be given data so that he can use it to watch porn and to message young girls. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Care for Calais should be shut down, and the people that run it should be prosecuted, in my view. Traitors, yes, exactly right.
And there is absolutely no comeback on that for the simple reason that by the overly generous laws of the European Union itself, you're still meant to stop in the first safe country.
Yeah.
Why does everybody ignore this?
I know.
Why is it that you can come in on the east side and then trundle your way along to the land of milk and honey, namely the UK, the soft touch of the world when it comes to all of this, and then you can claim asylum? Why aren't we saying we're going to take you back to the last place you came in from, or we'll take you all the way back? Or why don't we use Anthrax Island or something?
Yeah.
And stick them all on there. Or somewhere which doesn't involve us spending hundreds of millions of pounds with the Somalian government.
Yeah.
Some bit of land somewhere, Rockall maybe. I mean, just why are we doing this?
But yeah, but even if we didn't do that, why on earth are we giving these people free phones and free accounts so that they can, Because, I mean, I don't know. I can imagine what would happen if you give these migrants a free Vodafone account. Can you imagine that they stop it? Do you think Vodafone ring them up on, sort of week 3 and say, thank you very much indeed for being such a valuable and loyal customer of Vodafone. We'd like to now offer you a special deal where you only have to pay us £10 a month or something. No, they will continually probably supply them with free Vodafone access for the rest of their lives.
And if they do pay it, we're paying that too, because we're giving these people benefits. My parents came in as children. They had to leave the Soviet Union because if they'd stayed there, they'd have been liquidated, i.e. killed by the state. And when they arrived, they told me, and I've said this to you before on the show, they were told, and they told me, and they educated me to say, embrace the culture that embraces you. Maybe celebrate Christmas privately on the 24th of December if you want, but embrace the culture that embraces you.
Yes.
Speak English, shake hands, treat the people you're with in a UK kind of way.
Yeah.
There are parts of this country now which are absolutely disgraceful. And as to say, you've alluded to it before, you made an accurate comment about this on social networks, and millions of people agree with you.
Yeah.
But back to the same wokerati who can't stand the fact that Harvey didn't beat Farage in this by-election, they go, oh no, we've got to be considerate. All right, so how many people in Putney live next to a house of multiple occupation full of men who leer at children? In Hounslow, there's a primary school, and it was so bad. They were staying in a Holiday Inn there, lovely hotel was full of migrants, don't know the status now. And they go and stand looking at the children in the primary school playground. So they had to put all this hardboard and chipboard up. So they pulled them down so that they carry on taking photographs of children.
Unbelievable.
This is the world where 250,000 raped underage girls in this country. And credit to Rupert Lowe, he deserves credit because he has really campaigned on that. Might be up to 1 million in the last 25 years. Now there's rape before then. Yeah, but it's gone up in proportion to the migration problem. Now, once again, that's one other reason why they keep going at Farage and Lowe to an extent, because it's not seemly. These people deserve our help. Really, you don't live in the sink areas which are being destroyed by illegal migration.
Yeah.
And asylum, come on, give me a break. I don't give a toss about your claim if your first act is to set foot on the beaches of Dover illegally.
No, exactly right. It's absolutely and utterly ludicrous. We don't appear to have any kind of way of stopping it. We've got Andy Burnham, who now says that he's going to be relentless in his attacks on the illegal migrants. But yet we still see more and more of them coming, not least on boats now, which have got more people on them than a 747 or 737 rather coming in from Alicante.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm half expecting cruise ships to turn up.
Yeah.
They'll come off. We claim asylum
I know.
now.
I know.
I mean, this is the thing. 250, 300 people. And do you know what? This because they're laughing at us. The French are perfectly happy, except when the cameras are there, they'll slash a few of the boats. Perfectly happy to get rid of the problem. And then halfway across the channel, oh, help us, save us. I don't know if the RNLI understand that they're damaging their own brand. Maybe they're just having to do it. I don't really understand. But they're damaging their own brand by not at least explaining why they're doing it out of necessity. But the fundamental question I've got here is why have we not got a permanent presence of border guards who are very happy to keep you waiting in airports and so on, but border guards all along the channel, the coast, saying you can't come in. I mean, we were able to do it in World War II.
Yeah.
Now we've got untold numbers. You know, we've actually had more people crossing the channel than Germany wanted to use to invade and conquer
I
Britain.
know. Well,
This is insane.
as it was pointed out during the conversation about the movement of the Bayeux Tapestry, rather amusingly described by Anna McGovern down at Clacton, it was only 11,000 Normans that came into Britain when they invaded it and took it over and completely swept away the monarch, swept away the army, swept away any kind of semblance of Anglo-Saxon Britain and took it over. And that's a very tiny, small minority compared to the numbers who have come here illegally from places like Eritrea, for heaven's sake.
That's right. I couldn't get to see you, and the distance of my journey is about the width of the channel. These people, I'm actually going to come to you in a small boat up the Thames next time.
Yeah, I know.
It'll cost me $3,000 and
That would make sense.
in Calais.
Final-
but at least I'll damn well get there.
Final question to you: be careful what you do with water over the weekend, because there's now warnings being put out, and this one from Southeast Water, which has been given to people in the southeast of England. We may be restricting the times of the day that water is supplied to your home, on the grounds that we are now no longer able to supply water to your home 24 hours a day, for which we pay them a pretty penny, by the way.
It's unbelievable. You know what? If we had a litre for every penny of bonus they've had, we'd have no problem at all. They have had their noses in the money trough of water in this country ever since it was privatised, which I think was a catastrophic mistake, incidentally.
Yes.
And it's actually what you've just told me is little short of criminal.
I know.
But no one's being prosecuted. Oh,
No.
no. And the more often we hear this, the worse it gets. But then we get back to where we started before. It's not their fault. It's climate change.
Climate change, yeah.
It's their climate
Yeah,
change.
it's like, excuse me, what do you do? I run a water company. How's that going? Not very well. Why is that then? We haven't got any water. Well, why have you got any bloody water? It's your job to have water. It is your job to supply water. It is your job to collect water when it falls from the sky. And you can then charge people money for the water you've collected as it fell from the sky, which apparently doesn't cost very much money to collect. And yet, you can't do it.
And yet, in Dubai, where it hardly rains at all, except when they messed up cloud seeding experiments, they have as much water as you want.
Yeah.
They actually water the garden. They don't have hose pipes.
No.
No wonder that thousands of millionaires have moved from Britain to Dubai. And even with all the little local difficulties there, they don't have water shortages. They don't have hose pipe bans. And they don't have this utter baloney, which is pulling this country
It's just
apart.
insane. Completely insane. Anyway, listen, Lembit, great to see you. You've absolutely fired me up for the day. And I could not have wished for a better compadre to start the Friday show with. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank Southwestern Trains and the fact I'm hangry. I need a burger. Good to see you. I'll see you in the studio soon. Have a great day.
Go get a burger. We'll see you in the studio very soon. Yeah, absolutely. Lembit Opik there, checking in with us from the southwest, where he can't get into London because there's no trains. Well, I mean, I suppose on the bright side, at least if you did get a train from the southwest, you wouldn't end up on your side. You wouldn't end up like with the train turned over, as they have this morning found in Lewes, which is the capital of Sussex. A train derailment seriously injured 2 passengers. It may have been caused by a heat wave, according to experts. Well, hang on. Has it been caused by a heat wave or not? This is the kind of wrong-footed reporting that I rave on about all the time. The fact that, you know, in my day, when we used to work in newspapers, we used to get accurate information and we used to report on it, right? 3 of the train's 8 carriages derailed on what regular commuters say is a notoriously rocky stretch of track. Here's my theory, and this theory is just as valid as any theory about the heat, okay? Here's what we've been doing in this country, and you know this to be true if you live in any kind of urban scenario. In London, for example, there's an awful lot of people being hired to drive buses who are not qualified to drive buses. And I don't wish to be in any way racist or nationalist or xenophobic, but one of the reasons why the people who are driving buses are crashing them all the time is because they don't know what they're doing. Because they've come here from places like Ethiopia, places like Somalia, places like Eritrea, and they're being given jobs that they can't do. Over in America, for example, Donald Trump only recently banned the trucking organisations from giving lorry licenses to immigrants because they were crashing their lorries so much because they don't know how to drive. Right? Now, you might say to me, that's a ridiculous notion, Mike. But think about it. As you drive around, Charlotte and I drove back up from Clacton yesterday, right? As soon as we got to London, I said to her, do you know what? I've got to start concentrating on driving because, you know, there's so much going on and there's so many bad drivers that I have to take a care. Because driving up from coming in on the A12 was no problem. On the M25, no problem. Getting on the A13, actually no problem. As soon as we got into London, though, I had to sort of avoid people hitting me. I had to avoid people pulling out in front of me. I had to avoid people braking when they didn't have to brake. Why? Because they don't know how to drive. Because they're all foreign. And I know that you'll think that I've gone sort of xenophobia mad, but I haven't. And the same goes for the trains, the same goes for the buses. And I bet you any money that we will discover that this particular train crash down in Lewis was caused by somebody who didn't know what they were doing, by somebody who was driving a train without proper qualifications, without proper care and attention, and they've turned the bloody train over on its side because they were going too fast around a bend. Nothing to do with the bleeding heat, nothing to do with the fact that we haven't seen any rain, everything to do with the fact that we've started hiring people who don't know what they're doing. Why? Because they're from another country and we've got to give them a job.
Like, to illustrate your point,
yeah.
If you went to Ethiopia to ride a camel, you wouldn't know how to do it, would you?
I have ridden a camel before.
Have you?
Yeah.
Did you know?
Do you know, funnily enough, when I walked into the hotel in Clacton, they had this kind of sofa, what seemed like a sofa, but it was in the shape of a camel. And there was a sign that said, please do not climb on the camel.
Yeah.
I said, I wasn't planning on climbing on the camel, actually.
That's a euphemism.
Sounds like a euphemism. You know,
Are you going to climb on the camel?
I'm going to climb the camel later when I get down.
We've got to use that.
The former Mrs. Graham will not be happy about that.
No.
She won't want me to climb on the camel.
I've got a surprise guest.
Have you?
Yes.
No, I don't like surprises.
No,
you know that.
You'll like this surprise.
Well, I like this one. Here he is.
Miguel.
It's Will Geddes. My man.
How are you, sir?
My man. Will Geddes, how nice to see you. Look as if you're on holiday. What are you doing? Are you out in the...
I can't possibly tell you what I'm doing, mate. Hang on, I'm going to go this way.
Whoa.
There we go. That's
Are you
better.
you're in some kind of garden scenario, the jardinerie. What are you doing?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Are you
maybe
here or are you elsewhere?
I'm elsewhere.
Elsewhere?
At the moment, but I'm making sure I'm going to be back next week because otherwise Pooch will be on my tail. I know that.
Pooch is. I tell you what, Pooch is playing a blinder this week. We were in Clacton, and it can only be described as a massive triumph because not only did we get an exclusive interview with Nigel Farage on the eve of the election, but the next day we did a morning show which has achieved something like, I think it's the biggest ever show that we've done, something like 145,000 views on a show. So the world is in a good place. And also, by the way, in case you haven't seen it, and I've got a copy for you here, my new book.
I've ordered it, mate.
Do you know what position it is in the charts in Amazon? Number one. Numero uno. So it's absolutely extraordinary. It's bloody amazing.
You're
actually.
a legend, mate. You're a legend, mate.
You know, it feels
Absolute
like
legend.
it feels like it's all coming together in a way which I never expected. So anyway, you're looking good. Glad to see you because the last time we were hoping we were going to have you in last week, and you were suffering from the lurgy that everybody else got.
I was.
But you've managed to get rid of it, right?
I have, mate. I'm all in the clear, fighting fit, all good shape, mate. Thank you very much. And I'm so pleased. You know what? Nigel has a lot to thank you for all your help, support for him getting, obviously, Clacton. You know, well done, mate. Brilliant work.
Absolutely.
And
right.
well done to Charlotte and Pooch for putting on a brilliant show as well.
Yeah. No, it's been absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Obviously, now there will be no doubt the backlash from those who hate Nigel Farage, who said there'll be a low turnout. Oh, he won't get as many votes as he got last time. Both of those stories are now wrong, as it would appear. It looks as though he's back stronger than ever. And he said to me, actually, and we're going to play some clips from the interview through the show. He said to me, he doesn't think that they'll have the cojones to make him have another by-election. And I think he might be right. I think they might back away from that because every time they keep trying to beat him down, he keeps coming up stronger, doesn't he?
He does, mate. He's never going to get put down. He's pushing forward. But also, I think the most important thing, it just shows the general public. Oh, you've got my wrinkles there, Charlotte. Thank you. You can see, no Botox. But I think, ultimately it shows what the general public want. They want Nigel in. This country needs to change. And there is so much dark stuff, which I'm going to be talking about on something coming up fairly soon, thanks to Pooch and
Well,
Charlotte,
do you know, Pooch has just said to me that you're going to film your first ever new show for us next week.
I am, sir. I am, and there's going to
be big. Come on, the big Willie, as they say. So, what's the name of the show?
It's called Frontline, and it very much will be Frontline.
I love that. I love that. Frontline with Will Geddes. It's going to be. Tell us a bit about it. What are you going to be doing?
I'm going to be bringing a lot of interesting people onto the show. Some people that you may recognise from the TV, people who are in my world, who may have been on certain shows that perhaps there are contestants on. I won't say much more than that. But also bring on a few familiar faces as well. And we're going to talk about what's going on really behind the curtain, what we know in our world in terms of the dark arts that the government may be pulling on us. And some of the things which, thankfully, Nigel is just pushing through, pushing hard to make sure can't obviously suppress him and can't suppress what the general public want.
Yeah, absolutely right. And a couple of stories to just ask you about this morning. I mean, obviously, we don't know yet what's happened to this train derailment scenario, but I suspect it will not be having been derailed because of the weather, and it will likely be operator error, as we like to say.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the biggest story for me today is this story about Vodafone. I don't know whether you've seen it. On the front page of the Telegraph, basically Vodafone has facilitated, according to Reform, the invasion of Britain. They've given 2,500 SIM cards loaded with 6 months of free data to Care for Calais, right? So that they can give migrants free use of not only a phone, but free data for months and months and months and months. And I suspect probably for the rest of their lives, because I can't imagine them pulling the accounts. So I've this morning, just live on this show, cancelled because I've got Vodafone as a carrier. I've cancelled my direct debits. I've just been told by the mother of my children that will ruin your credit rating. I don't care. I'm going to find another carrier. I'm going to put my money somewhere else. I do not wish to do business with a company that is giving free data to migrants coming here, raping our children.
I've got two things to say on that story, Mike, that I immediately can think of. And this is the sort of stuff we're going to be doing on Frontline. The first of which is it's a very savvy commercial move by Vodafone, because it means that every single user of those phones will need to top up with Vodafone. And whether it's their own money, it's black economy money, or it's government, us taxpayer money that's paying for it, they have now got subscribers for a significant amount of time. But the second side, which could be a good side, is the fact that if these are exclusive to illegal immigrants or potential individuals that could abscond and disappear, they'll be very easy to find, Mike.
I know. But my suggestion to you would be that none of those reasons perhaps is why they did it. Vodafone are doing it because of a virtue signalling exercise where everybody can go, oh, don't we feel nice? We're helping Care for Calais. We're helping these nice young men coming to this country who need help ordering their pizzas. Well, they don't actually need help ordering their bleeding pizzas because they're usually driving the moped that's got the pizza in it. So they don't actually need to call it. They can just get it from the place where they're going to work. I just find it really disgusting and horrible that we, as ordinary, hard-working members of society, and this is what I got from people down in Clacton, people are sick to death of paying taxes and actually, being the only people, it seems, in this country who are doing something for themselves. Everybody else seems to be getting something for free. I mean, I don't get anything for free. I don't know about you. I get nothing for free. Everything that I do, I have to pay for. I don't get any benefits. I don't get my housing paid for. I don't get my council tax paid for. I don't get my food paid for. These people are coming into the country, and not only are they getting, a free hotel to stay in, not only are they getting free food, they're getting a free bloody phone.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And also, there's no time limit attached to it. I mean, you and I and everybody else and all the listeners and supporters of the show will be paying through the nose on their taxes. And Burnham, no doubt, will stealth a whole bunch more. And ultimately, where's that money going? It's not going to the enrichment, the development, the support of our country. It seems to be going out the back door to we know who.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely shocking. Shocking. Anyway, listen, looks like you're having a great time. I'm slightly jealous. I wish I was coming to wherever you are to have a bit of lunch with you.
It's not Cyprus.
It's not Cyprus. And by the way, are you going to ask Will about... Oh, yeah, here's a good one. We think we got hacked the other day. Our live feed got sort of interfered with and it crashed. And we wondered if somebody was interfering with it. Is that likely?
It's a possibility, Mike. Again, something I'm going to cover on Frontline, which is where state-sponsored involvement or certainly sabotage can potentially help. But remember, you are gaining more and more of a voice every single day, Mike, every time you go online.
Yeah.
It's funny, I told Charlotte, I mean, actually, on that note, I spoke to Pooch about it, and Pooch and I will have a quick chat. He thinks it might have been just gremlins because your show is rapidly growing so quickly. Maybe it's the technology bandwidth, trying to get that sorted out. But, mate, you're huge. It's so funny. I was telling Charlotte last night via WhatsApp. I was on my way down to cross over onto the continent. And some guy, an ambulance worker, in fact, came over and he said, he went, "My Graham." I went, "Almost, but not as handsome."
I know. It's been brilliant. No, I mean, I was walking down because we did a show at the Royal Hotel in Clacton, and we were actually staying at another place called the Esplanade, which was about, I don't know, a couple of hundred yards away. And yesterday morning, and also the day before, when we arrived, we were sort of walking backwards and forwards, and I could not walk down the street with people honking their horns, waving at me. "Oh, it's Mike Graham!" You know, it's amazing. It's absolutely brilliant.
We all love you, Mike.
It's fantastic. And listen, you have been what I can only describe as a stalwart of stalwarts. And here we are. Look, we're all like a big family here, says Richard. And that was the sense I got. You know, we filled out the hotel, 150 people on Wednesday night. And they all were just like, you know, we all feel like we're part of this big family. And that's what it's like. That's how it feels. It feels as though we're doing something for the first time that people really care about. And they care about what they're doing. And look at that, 15,000 people watching. Yeah, smash that like button.
15,305 by my counter. Mate, you're getting huge.
It's massive. It's massive.
But,
I mean,
you know what I love?
Go on.
Do you know what I love, Mike? I love the fact that this really is a community. This is the proper, outside of the bandwidth of the MSM. This is free speech in its truest sense. You are not heeded by anything. You can basically do what you want, and people respect your opinion. And obviously, me excluded, you have some amazing guests on who obviously speak some great truths and give people and tell people, basically air what people are talking about in their own homes. They're talking in their pubs. They're talking in their workplaces. You know, you're being far
too modest, Will. You know, we only have you on for the eye candy factor, you know, because all women go, "When's he back on? Can he come on with that?" And you've got to promise. You might have to do this actually. If you get 10,000 likes on your first show, you have to take your shirt off.
I better start going doing some press-ups.
People want to see what's
at the some Botox too, Charlotte.
People want to see what's at the top end of that tattoo. You know what I mean?
Well, I miss you guys, and I definitely missed coming in last week, mate. And thank you.
Don't worry. Listen, have a lovely weekend, and we look forward very much to the first episode of Frontline with Will Geddes. It's going to be amazing. Thanks, Will, thank you very much, man. Speak to you soon.
Take care, buddy.
Will Geddes
Bye,
reporting in. A lot of people say he looks like he's in Italy. How can you tell that? He's sitting in front of a wall, right? But there is no doubt that Will Geddes is definitely the eye candy of the show. You know, people like watching me, but if you think I'm sexy, wait till you see him. Because I'm not joking. Why are you laughing like that? Do you know, by the way, that Charlotte, actually, well, I've never done this before, but when we drove out to Clacton and back again, and we did and if you want to see it, it's actually quite funny. I watched a bit of it last night. We did a live stream from me driving in the car. And do you know what I really liked about it? Was that you could see the Maserati symbol on the steering wheel throughout the whole thing. And funnily enough, nobody made fun of that. Because you think normally people would go, wanker. You know, tosser. You know, what's he playing at? You know, why is he showing off? But it wasn't my fault, honestly. It wasn't my fault. Keep up the great work, Mike. Phantasm says, as a super chat. We should probably do a couple more super chats, should we? We've got a lot today, and we got a lot over the weekend. Laura Jane says she's tired. 199. Why are you tired, Laura Jane? What have you been doing, naughty girl? Have you been up all night? This one from Mick Rose, who's obviously driving on the continent, 50 euros. From Mick, thank you very much indeed, the lorry driver. Super chat from James, cancel Vodafone. Yeah, well, I just have. I've just cancelled it. I'm not interested in giving them any more of my money so that they can give freebies to a bunch of illegal migrants. HMRC owe me £1,511 and have done since 2023. Says Mick. Do you know, I had to rescue my own bank account yesterday because I went, you know, because I'm not very good at banking, right? I'm one of those people that doesn't really pay attention as I should do. Mick says this, morning Mike, Pooch, Charlotte, Elena, Scarlett, Luke and Lembit. Couldn't watch live yesterday, watched it when I got home, off to Santorini. Not in my truck. Not in your truck. You mean somebody else's truck? Samantha says, here is my RNLI money. I think what she means is she's giving it to us instead of RNLI. Hi, Mike, a small donation I used to give to RNLI, says Red Beast in Red. Yeah, see, people are getting fed up. Don't give money to RNLI. Don't give money to these charities, Care for Calais, scumbags, helping illegal migrants to come to this country. Mike, where's the footage of the supersized dinghy being destroyed? I must have missed it, says Mr. H. Well, interesting you say that. I don't know what they're doing with these super dinghies. Morning, Mike. How about doing a live show from Paphos Harbour in front of the fort? I love Paphos.
Yes, please.
What, is that Cyprus?
I think so.
It is. No, it is. No, I'm joking. It is. No, I was in Paphos not that long ago. Mike, you were so funny cancelling the direct debit on air, says the Cozy Nest. Yeah, well, I've just done it. You know, I heckled you, Mike, and Woody Dog gave you a bark, says Nancy. Did you? Okay. There's an interesting headline, China's funding Palestine marches. I have to look at that story because it's in the front page of the Telegraph. This one from Phantasm. Keep up the great work, Mike. Thank you very much indeed. And anything else, or was that it?
We'll go back some more later. Ralph's here.
We'll come back. Who's here?
Ralph.
Ralph Schulhammer?
Yeah.
My goodness me, great. Well, we'll talk to Ralph in a second. Shall we get some news? Have we got Fiona McLeod today?
We do.
So, news with Fiona McLeod. Back.
Hello, Fiona McLeod here with your Friday Bulletin. Yesterday, the UK recorded its hottest day of the year so far, a steamy 38.1 degrees at Kew Gardens, as the fifth heatwave of the summer properly cooked the country. Hosepipe bans stayed firmly in place, and half the nation spent the day melting into a giant outdoor sauna. In the West Midlands, wildfires tore through grassland and woodland, setting homes alight, forcing evacuations and sending a child and several firefighters to hospital. Fire chiefs described apocalyptic scenes. Down in East Sussex, a southern train decided the rails were too hot to handle. 3 carriages flipped near Lewis, injuring 20 people and turning the afternoon commute into pure pandemonium. And in Clacton, the by-election result is in. Nigel Farage has been returned with a convincing win. Counting continues, but he's already claimed victory. See you later, alligator.
So there we are. That was Fiona McLeod with the news there. We've got lots of good stories. I'll tell you what, actually, in the general, let me just run you down a few of the stories we've got this morning on the front pages. Andy Burnham has apparently decided that he wants villagers to take more asylum seekers because he doesn't think that they're taking their fair share. So he's still banging on about that. And he doesn't seem to be aware in any way, shape or form that people are not actually very keen on that idea. Vodafone, meanwhile, are apparently, and as I've just cancelled my direct debit live on air, Vodafone have been giving SIM cards to a bunch of asylum seekers, illegal immigrants. 2,500 SIM cards handed out with 6 months of free data to Care for Calais, right? Massive story. Charlie Rowley's here, who we haven't had on the show before, but he's a man who knows a thing or two about government. He was a Downing Street special advisor. He's a pundit now, and he used to be somebody who was on with me a lot at Talk. He's now made the jump, and he's coming over to see us here at the Mike Graham Show. China, on the front page of the Telegraph, apparently funding Palestine marches. It says the US committee has claimed that Beijing is supporting anti-Israel protests on Britain's streets. What the hell is that all about? And of course, The Sun and The Mirror a couple of other papers are doing this story about the derailed train, which apparently was driven off the tracks near Lewes in Sussex. At least 2 people were injured seriously, 18 others hurt. The 224 service from London to Victoria flipped over. And they're trying to make out that it's got something to do with the hot weather. I don't see why it would have something to do with the hot weather. What's it got to do with that? Meanwhile, water firms are losing 1.2 billion litres of water every day, even as they tell you that they can't actually supply you with water. I always say this to them when they ring up and go, would you mind not watering your plants? And I go, well, would you mind not watering the ground with 1.2 billion litres going into it every single bleeding day, you complete numpties? Can I just have that last one? Because I wanted to read that one out.
Which one was it?
The last message you gave me.
Hang on.
I don't know whether you can see what the last message was, but I was about to read it.
I've lost it.
You've lost it. Oh, hang on. She's got it back. Charlotte's here. Here we go. Amazing live show, Mike, and the gang. Pooch, brilliant. What a team. Well done, Charlotte. That's from Ava. I think they're talking about Clacton. Clacton was a triumph. It was a massive, massive show. We need, you know what we need to do? And we'll do it before we talk to Charlie Rowley, is line up some Nigel Farage clips.
I've got one lined up anyway.
You got one?
Yes.
One?
It's a big day. I've got plans.
No, it's not a big day. No.
I'll get more, don't worry.
Can we get more, please? Let's do, because we want to play a few of them. Because, you know, it was an exclusive interview. We were the only people interviewing him on the eve of the election. And he was talking about a great many things. Universities fear financial turmoil, it says here as well. And also, how about this? Houses on fire in the Midlands, in addition to trains crashing everywhere. How about this, though, from Edwina Curry? Should we play her? Because we haven't played any clips at all yet. Here's Edwina Curry talking on Times Radio, right? Remember Edwina Curry? She was the one that was shagging John Major, right? Which is something you really don't want to think about this early in the morning, I know. But she thinks a good idea is to get some brothels organised for the young male migrants coming to this country. Check it out.
The obvious thing that 1,200 young men are going to need in the middle of a village like Little Piddington is a brothel. I don't think they're going to provide that. I have a feeling that's not going to be allowed.
Now, I was watching Dan Wootton's show last night because he was kindly playing a load of my clips from the Nigel Farage interview, and he had Neil Hamilton on, and his Mrs. Christine Hamilton, and he said something which I almost spat my coffee out. Well, in fact, it was a glass of wine, I think, at the time. He said, I knew Edwina Curry. He said, we were all very shocked when we found out that she'd been having an affair with John Major. And he said, and I mean, this is why the Indian independent space is becoming much more interesting than the BBC. He said, you know, I'd rather put my penis in a pencil sharpener than have sex with Edwina Curry. And I thought, that is one of the greatest things I've ever heard. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Charlie Rowley's here. Charlie, how nice to see you.
Good morning, Mike.
Welcome to my world. What do you think of it?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Isn't it great?
It's brilliant. First time here.
Yeah, first time here.
And I should have come a lot earlier.
No,
it's been a
Charlie
great
and I
setup.
we used to shoot the Breeze, every Monday, was it?
I think so, yeah.
When I was at Talk, and he used to come in and do the paper review. So Charlie's back, so we're very happy about that. We're going to talk in a minute. I'm just going to talk, before we do that, to Ralf Schulhammer, who is our favourite Austrian, who likes to tell us about what's going on in the world of European democracy and or otherwise.
This is Ralf Schulhammer, and I'll be back.
Ralph, very good morning to you, sir.
Hey, Mike, I'm so sorry. I've been late today.
No, don't worry. You're not late. I'm late. I'm also, we've got two things going on today that I want to talk to you about. Obviously, one, the European Union, I'm told, is literally burning at the centre of its soul because they don't know what to do about Spain and they don't know what to do about the invasion of northern Morocco by the maniacs who are trying to break into Spain. And it's all going horribly wrong. That's the first thing. Second thing is in the Telegraph today, we've got Vodafone, the multinational phone company, giving free SIM cards and free data to every migrant that gets off a boat in Dover. And I've just cancelled live on this show my direct debit with Vodafone.
Yeah, I mean, they need those phones to call all the prostitutes that apparently they will also now be supplied with. So that just makes complete sense. No, this is like many of these things have become so maddening that you have to check the news twice because you say it can't be true, but it always turns out to be true. and they can't help themselves. I mean, I find that you played this clip, and I also saw it online today. I mean, I think now her name escapes me, but this was a former conservative. So if you now have conservatives whose slogan is, brothels for migrants, then I really have to ask, well, what exactly is left of the conservative movement? And by the way, the idea itself is, and I promise you, we had a case a couple of years ago, I think, where somebody from the UK, where the National Health Service in the UK paid for a guy to go into a brothel and to a prostitute in the Netherlands. Mark Stein reported this in his book After America. So these things have happened in the past, and now this is just going to be expanded. And you get off the boat, you get housing, you get some pocket money, and you get a voucher for the next state-run brothel. I mean, the only good news is it's probably not going to work, because if the government runs the brothels, they're probably going to be terrible. But
Yeah, and the other joke I suppose we should make is that we all know it won't end up with a happy ending, will it?
No, definitely not for the taxpayer.
No,
I mean,
we're all getting stooped, not in a good way.
It is so absurd. It really is. Like, it is so absurd, because instead of talking about what to do to get these people out of the country, we are talking about, how can we serve them even better? I mean, this is a little bit like bending over and well, this is a family show, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, exactly right. But let's talk a little bit more about the European scenario, because I was listening to a radio show last night about how there's an awful lot of kind of disquiet, shall we say, in Brussels about what's going on in Spain with Prime Minister Sanchez, and how he is referring himself to them, and how he's allowing all of these immigrants to come into Spain. And he's allowed, I think, something like 1 million immigrants from North Africa to come into Spain already. And they're worried now in the EU that actually the Schengen Agreement is about to be burst wide open, because while they all think it's a great idea to have freedom of movement within Europe for Europeans, they don't think they want freedom of movement for non-Europeans, because clearly what's happening is that the Africans are coming in en masse.
No, you're right. And a lot of this was not just foreseeable. I think the bigger problem is that once again, unfortunately, significant parts of the European Union, but even more strikingly, significant parts of the European media was once again lying to the people. Yeah. I just want to remind you and your viewers, we have been told that the crisis in Ceuta was basically over after 24 hours. Everything is fine. Everything is back to normal. Now there are still some bloggers, there are still some independent media in Ceuta, and nothing is back to normal. Right? I mean, we were told everybody. So first of all, they said it's 48,000. Then they said it's 62,000. Then they said it's 72,000. And now the last official number from the Spanish government is 80,000. Now, just to put this in perspective, the population of Ceuta is 84,000, and they had, and you can only use the term invasion because this is what it is, they had 80,000 people coming. Then they said all these 80,000 people, they left within 12 hours, nothing to see there, nothing happened. Now we know that in fact at least 8,000 to 11,000 people are still in Ceuta. So it was lie after lie after lie, as it is. So there are two topics over the last couple of decades. It was the COVID, the pandemic, and migration, where governments and the media have lied to the people to such an extent, it is mind-boggling. And I'm sorry, the point, when I say lie, there is always the possibility that you just don't know better, right? You sincerely believe something that just turns out to be wrong. That can happen. But we know now in many cases that they knew better, they know better, and they still tell the public the very opposite. And this is just, it's a disgrace. And as I said, at some point, this is the justification first for a revolution on the ballot box, and if nothing changes,
there's a lot of people making noises in this country, certainly, because they hate the idea of Nigel Farage. They keep trying to beat him down. He's won the by-election this morning with bigger numbers than anybody had ever suspected. They tried to say that he was going to get a lower vote. They were going to have a lower turnout. Everything they say about Farage is wrong, effectively, and they're now worried, the same people, about this kind of shift to the right in Europe, that there's going to be an anti-immigration kind of feeling, generally speaking, and right-wing parties are going to get more and more popular. We've seen it in Austria, we've seen it in Germany, we've seen it in Italy, we're seeing it in France, and it's now happening in Spain. And so there's a definite shift going on, isn't there?
Yeah, but again, I don't think they are really right-wing. I mean, if you listen to the positions of Nigel Farage, I mean, I would say this is what just a couple of years ago we would have called normal. I mean, the reframing of completely normal, common sense positions as being right, far right, extreme right, I mean, is yet one of these other attempts of gaslighting the majority of the people. If you look at the party programs of most so-called far-right parties in Europe, pretty much everything in there, there are some differences in economic policy and some are, let's say, more outspoken in what they want to do and others a little less. But overall, these are completely middle-of-the-road positions. And the same is true for Farage as well. I think the same is also true to a large extent for Restore. I mean, I still find this division of the right in the UK problematic. I think it's, you have the same goal and you split it up into two parties. Given the electoral system in Britain, that's not very smart, but that's something you guys have to decide on your own. But these are not right-wing positions. These are completely normal positions.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. And as far as the way that that the EU is going to go now, I mean, it seems to me it's at a bit of a watershed moment because they seem, I don't know whether it's just because when we live in Britain, and actually I'll bring Charlie Rowley into this, Charlie, because you've obviously worked inside government. You've seen the way that we interact with the European Union as well. I feel like there's a sort of watershed moment going on here where the European Union seems really irrelevant. What's happening in Brussels doesn't seem to matter.
Totally. And you remember the large number of immigrants that came
Good morning,
through.
by the way.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Nice. Thank you very much. And I was listening to Ralph there.
And Ralph is a fantastic guest of ours every week he's on. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff, and it's absolutely right. What you're seeing, the change across Europe in terms of the way in which the politics is going, particularly in France, that'll be fascinating next year at their set of elections. But the problem with the EU, when will they learn? We had a mass migration crisis in Germany, which basically finished off Angela Merkel. It was the beginning of the end of her. And then we saw it not too long ago, last week, a week ago in Spain, with Morocco coming into Spain. We're seeing it in the UK. The European Union just don't get it, that ordinary families, local communities that for too long have felt overlooked, undervalued, where their central governments aren't representing local folk. That's why they end up getting kicked out, and that's why Nigel's done so well.
Yeah, exactly right. And do you get that sense, Ralph, in Austria where you are and also in other parts of Europe where you travel? I mean, do people even mention the European Union anymore? Do they even talk about it? It seems to me that it's almost as though there's no point to it.
Well, I think in the UK probably this is more pronounced. I mean, the EU is still an issue, but mostly unfortunately in a negative way. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about this. I'm sure probably the UK will then do it voluntarily, but they have now completely crazy new packaging orders, right? What kind of packaging a company can use and how they have to reuse it and how they have to recycle it. So it's both literally and metaphorically more paperwork for companies. So this is the problem with the EU is it is increasingly becoming the disease it was supposed to cure, right? The idea was to make things easier, to make a common market, to allow innovative individuals to take the opportunity of having an integrated economic sphere. But all of this is not happening. It's just more regulation and more insanity from top down. But as I always say, the same problem in the UK, it's so odd. You left the European Union, but you kept all the problematic and negative bits and pieces. I mean, if you look at somebody, I mentioned quite often, but if you look at somebody like, Secretary Miliband, I mean, this guy embodies everything the European Union wants to do. It's like invasion of the body snatchers. And he's like, Brussels become flesh, and then it doesn't really matter whether you had Brexit or not.
Exactly right. Ralph is eye candy, it says here from Cindy. You're obviously finding some new fans somewhere in the female area. I mean, I just wonder where it goes though from now on, because if you are Ursula von der Leyen, as I like to call her, what kind of power base can you have? As you see, it's like an iceberg, melting around you, and soon you'll be left standing on something about the size of this newspaper,
Well, I think this is one of the reasons why the EU is mobilizing so much against these so-called right-wing parties, because what's going to happen, at least in my estimate, is you will have, maybe in France next year, as was already mentioned by Charlie as well, but you will have a change in government. And I don't think that then France is going to leave the EU, or that Germany, if the AfD should come into power, will leave the EU, or that Austria will leave the EU. But what's going to happen is they will, kind of what you allude to, Mike, they will start to ignore it. So the EU will remain, it will be like an early retirement home for useless politicians, the institutions, lots of the benefits will remain. but the actual political power is going to dissipate. It will be a little bit like the Holy Roman Empire of the Middle Ages. It will still be there in name, it will still be there maybe on a map, but it won't really have any influence, with maybe the exception of the European Central Bank and some other smaller institutions, because people or governments will start to ignore it. And this is what they fear, because at the end of the day, the European Union only has power if people accept that power, right? It's a little bit like the Supreme Court in the United States. The European Union doesn't have an army, it doesn't have its own police force. So if a country says, oh, you Brussels, you can say whatever you want, we ignore you. And then they say, okay, then we're going to sanction you. But what happens then if there's 2, 3, 4 more countries within the European Union that then say, oh, we're not going to go along with those sanctions because we also don't care what you say, then the whole thing starts to fall apart. It's a bit like a Potemkin village. And at some point somebody points out, or the emperor's new clothes, if somebody points it out, then everybody begins to see it. And I think this is what they fear so much.
I think that's going to be interesting, because I agree with you, and I think that's where we are in general with our own parliament in the UK, where people have said for so long, we gave you a license, we gave you permission to run the country, but now you're screwing it up. We'd actually quite like it back, and we'd like you to stop telling us how we should be living and what we should be doing and what we should be eating and what we should be drinking and how we should be conducting ourselves, because what the bloody hell has it got to do with it?
Mike, it is. I'm glad it is such an odd thing, right? I mean, one of the great developments in Western political evolution was that you had to shift from legitimacy, in the name of God. That the idea was that the king or the queen or whoever is invested with power by the supernatural, by God, has shifted to legitimacy comes from the people. We have now completely reversed this in a sense. So we have now a governing elite that simply thinks it is entitled to govern. They don't use the term God, but they behave in a similar way, right? There is this idea that there's a certain cadre of people, and they are the only ones who are entitled to run the country. And everybody who challenges their perceived right or their perceived privilege is then, discriminated as far-right, neo-Nazi, neo-fascist, or whatever, or, which I find funny, or as populist. Yeah, but the whole point of democracy or legitimacy by the people is, of course, in a positive way, is populism. Because at the end of the day, the government, the people who work in government are the civil servants, right? They serve at the pleasure of the people, so to speak, not because they have an entitlement to it, not because they have the right to do it. And I think this is what they have forgotten. And as we can know from history, this does not usually end well or go on forever. Because so this idea that there's a class of people that say we simply are entitled to rule and you shut up and listen, as you just said, Mike, we make all these rules, we make all these regulations, and there's no recourse for you, there's no way how you can vote these people out of office. That's not going to work forever. So I think some humbleness would be warranted on part of those who are currently in charge.
Yes, that would be good. And I hasten to go to that place, because I'd like to see it. I'd like to see some humbleness, as you say, humility from some of the politicians. Ralph, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Ralph Schulhammer, reporting into us from Austria there. He'll be back, of course. This from Ray. He says, morning, my fellow Grahamites. We are witnessing with Mike the genesis of our own version of Fox News for the UK. I love it. Well, we are. I mean, listen, we had such a great time down in Clacton. We got an exclusive interview with Nigel Farage on the eve of the election. There's Ray's speech there. And we march on, and we had the biggest ever showing of our show. I think it was 140,000 yesterday? Yeah. 145,000, something like that. 145,000 people saw the show. Incredible. Charlie Rowley's here. Welcome to the new revolution of television.
Thank you very much. And a live audience in Clacton for you as well, which is amazing.
Yeah. Live audience, we sold out in the Royal Hotel in Clacton. People loved it. Nigel loved it. So he's won. So let's start with that. And sort of against the odds again, they said it was going to be a low turnout. It turns out it wasn't a low turnout. It was about 40-odd% of the electorate, which is pretty high for a by-election. And more people voted for him this time than they did in July 2024. Yeah. Incredible.
Extraordinary. Yeah. And all the odds, everyone, all the naysayers and the detractors who say, no, come on, he's called this by-election.
Yeah, he's made a mistake.
He's made a mistake. He's outperformed even his sort of harshest critic, I think. So, will this be enough now to stave off another by-election, which everybody's talking about, if the Parliamentary Standards Committee...
he said something similar along those lines, because when I spoke, I said to him, because he said, I think he said it was the first by-election he'd done in 31 years, because the last by-election was 31 years before that, which presumably he didn't win. And I said, well, don't worry, because you might get 2 this year. And he said, actually, no, I don't think I will. And I do wonder whether they might see sense and actually say, all right, if they find him guilty of breaching the Standards Committee rules, they might just suspend him for sort of a week or something and get out of it that way. So they punished him, but he doesn't have to have a recall petition.
Yeah, and that's, that would be good for him, because I don't think he'll want to do another by-election, but I don't think the people of Clacton will want to do another by-election. I think as far as they're concerned, that they've had one now. Everyone knows about the 5 million and what that's what the Standards Committee are looking into. It would be just a complete waste of everybody's
I think so.
time.
But again, the sort of relentless kind of campaigning against Nigel Farage was telling us before this by-election, the people of Clacton don't want it. It's a disgrace. I mean, Kerry Badenoch was saying you deserve better than this, even though she wouldn't run a candidate in it. And it was all about nobody's going to be interested. People are going to spoil their ballots. I mean, I was listening to a piece on Times Radio, which is fast becoming the most ridiculous radio station in the world, where they were saying, loads of people will spoil their ballot papers, and it will take a long time to count them because they have to be shown to every candidate. So 33 people will have to look at all of these spoiled ballot papers and agree that they've been spoiled. And funnily enough, I was talking to a Reform member from Wales who said that she had been involved in checking these things, right? And I don't know how much about this you probably know more than I do. But she said, basically, I spent most of the evening looking at people having drawn cocks on the ballot paper and determining whether or not it was a cock. And I went, well, obviously you've got great experience of this, have you? And she was like, well, not really. But they had to look at every single cartoon drawing and decide whether it was a penis.
They were either very excited by that candidate, and that went as a vote for them.
Yeah, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I've seen 100 cocks. I mean, that's not the normal night for most of us.
I was going to say, it could be a Friday night.
Apart from Christo, obviously, for him that's just a normal night. But you know what I mean? It's kind of a weird way that these things are done. So I wonder whether the government and the Parliament will actually say, don't give Nigel Farage the opportunity to show us up again by giving him another by-election, which we will predict will go badly for him, but actually won't go badly for him.
Yeah, and the establishment parties, Labour, the Tories, the Greens, all the rest of them, said we're not going to put up a candidate because we don't want to dance to Nigel's tune. That was their choice, and Nigel's won. Do
you think they'll be regretting it this morning? Do you think? I mean, if you were in Kerry Badenoch's office right now, what do you think she's saying?
Look, I think she would.
Because they must have been all hoping that it would go horribly wrong.
Yes.
They must have been hoping, because I said this the other day. You can already read the way that the papers will report it. Look, his majority's been diminished. People didn't like having to go out and vote again. They think it's a waste of time. None of those stories will now run because actually it turns out that loads of people wanted to vote for him.
Yeah. Well, put it this way, I don't see a benefit to the Tory party machine now ramping up the rhetoric, trying to then have another by-election in Clacton when he's won and got more votes than he did at the last general election.
Because if their intention was to make him look ridiculous, which they tried to do by not standing, that hasn't worked.
It's backfired.
So if they now want to make him look ridiculous by having another one, that will also backfire.
And I just got to, and exactly. I'd like to think if you're in Tory Party HQ, it might be it's a seat that they held. If it's a seat that they want to win back, I don't think they're going to win many people over by asking the people of Clacton to go through a whole other by-election.
And again, everything they've ever thrown at Nigel Farage, and we've known him a long time, you and I. He's always come out of it smelling of roses. They tried to kill him off, when he was in UKIP. They tried to kill him off during the Brexit referendum. He won that, and it sort of seems like every challenge he gets offered, he wins.
Yeah. And it will, it would backfire, I think, because it will play into his narrative, which isn't, I don't think, disingenuous, but it's a narrative that he says the establishment's against him. So whether it's the police that sort of didn't want to give him the vote, and it would look again at the whole parliamentary standards if they decide, actually, even on the back of this exercise of a by-election, they'll think, if Parliament decides, yep, we're going to punish you, Nigel, then he can legitimately go to the Clacton and say, I'm really sorry, I didn't want this a second time. You already had
but you're making me do it.
But this is what the establishment parties are doing. And they're costing you, and they're bringing the whole media circus and all of their campaigns when they couldn't be bothered to stand a candidate 6 months ago, however long that might take to the next by-election, if there is one. It will play into Nigel's hands again.
Totally. Because he's the master of manipulating the way that other parties who are seemingly much more sort of just incapable of change, he just seems to be able to outsmart them at every move. I think Russell Quirk's about to join us, is that right?
Yeah.
Russell Quirk is here. Russell Quirk, of course, out campaigning yesterday for reform. He was a stalwart for us, and with us on Wednesday night down in Clacton, also Thursday morning. I don't know how he got the energy. I mean, you're like a man of sort of 21, Russell. It's extraordinary. How are you? Good morning.
Well, yeah, this kind of Benjamin Button reversal of age thing is definitely coming in handy, I've got to say.
No, listen, but you must be delighted because, as I was just saying to Charlie there, all of the sort of narratives that we were told would happen have once again proved not to be the case. The mainstream media's surety that there was going to be a low turnout, people would not want to vote for him, people have had enough of by-elections, they're sick to death of Nigel Farage, all of that, complete and utter cobblers.
Well, the mobilisation towards the left, of course, has started in earnest this morning.
Yeah.
I've had a number of messages from the likes of Matthew Stadlin and Jim Dale and the great and the good of the lefty trolls on X and elsewhere.
Or, as we call them here, the tossers.
Yes, exactly. Trying to desperately cling to some semblance of humility.
Yes.
Despite the fact that Nigel Farage and Reform have just handed them their arses. And it's amusing, really, because I had one of them say, well, not everyone in Clacton voted for Nigel. I go, well, no, of course not. And no. I can tell you also, to counter that, guess how many people have voted for a Labour government with Andy Burnham as Prime Minister? Zero.
Yeah,
Zero.
right.
So, as I said to Jim Dale just now, mate, you just don't like democracy, which is why now you all on the left start to resort to standards complaints, leaks, trolling, mischief around, what effectively in many instances amounts to defamation, to try and discredit reform politicians and anyone, or indeed kill them, like they did Anne Widdecombe, on the basis that they cannot stand the fact that the public, by way of majority, as demonstrated last night in Clacton, favour common sense. And can we just look at a couple of the numbers? Right? I know you probably rehearsed this over the last couple of hours or so, but not only did Nigel get 63% of the vote, he increased total votes by 1,000. So 1,000 more people voted for him, even though turnout was lower. And obviously turnout was lower because the mainstream parties didn't stand. However, I'm going to argue, and I've started to argue, Michael, on social media this morning, that this Jonathan Harvey, BBC so-called comedian lefty type, masquerading as a kind of parody character.
Also one of the tossers, thank you.
Therefore, king tosser, actually, although loser tosser.
King of the tossers.
Loser tosser. Because he lost, right? He lost. Right. So this mission to try and well, wasn't it hilarious when people suggested that he should be allowed to sit in the House of Commons wearing his bin outfit? Have you lost your mind?
They have. Well, I was reminded of it on Dan Wootton's show last night because he played the interview with Alistair Campbell and Rory Stewart, right? Who, the most serious people who do that ridiculous podcast that I can barely bring myself to listen to. But, they're actually interviewing a bloke with a bin on his head about policy and about intelligent kind of conversation about policy. You're thinking, have you lot gone completely insane?
I mean, what would, the great politicians of history on whatever side of the political spectrum, whether it's the likes of Macmillan or Churchill, what on earth would they say about how politics has descended into farce? But here's the serious point about this, right? So we know that the Conservatives, Labour, Lib Dems and the Greens were too scared, and that's what it is, they were too scared to run against Nigel, even though they had the opportunity to try and unseat him in that by-election yesterday. Now, we also know that the Conservatives in particular literally put their weight behind Jonathan Harvey, right? So he became their proxy uniparty candidate, in my view. The uniparty, therefore, the combined galvanisation of Conservative, Green, Lib Dem and Labour votes got precisely 26% of the vote. So Nigel, Reform, polled 2.5 times more votes than the uniparty combined yesterday. And people want to dare to say that Reform have peaked. Seriously. And guess what I've got out this morning? This rather lovely bottle of champagne to celebrate later. A bottle of champagne I was given when I was first elected as a councillor, signed by, I don't know if I can show you this, no, it's signed by David Cameron. How ironic, because David Cameron started all this.
Yeah,
Nigel
who?
Farage wouldn't be in politics if it wasn't for that idiot, that hoodie-hugging, Arctic skidoo running lunatic PR man David Cameron. If he hadn't been such a left-wing wet and run so scared of UKIP, which is now then became the Brexit Party, which effectively is now Reform, we wouldn't have had this humiliating victory really for Reform against the Uniparty.
You know what you're going to have to do, don't you? When you open it, as you open it, you'll have to hum. The way he hummed. Do you remember when he hummed when he went back into Downing Street number 10 after he resigned? Pop. That would be the way to do it, But
maybe I shouldn't open it. Maybe we should, I don't know, should we auction it off or something? I don't know, do something with it if you want.
No, I think you should open it. I think you should definitely open it. But I think you should film it. Get Mrs. Quirk to film you opening it, humming, and I think that would go absolutely viral. It'd be brilliant.
We'll do that and maybe just pour it down the drain, not even have to dig it.
Yeah, but just before I let you go, a quick question for you. The big story for me this morning, aside from obviously Nigel Farage winning, which is great news, brilliant stuff for him, and do say congratulations to him if you see him today. This story in the Telegraph, Vodafone, I've literally just ripped up. I've metaphorically ripped it up, but I had to just cancel it digitally because that's all you can do now. Vodafone paying and giving free data and free phones. 2,500 of them to a bunch of migrants coming into the country. I mean, this, for me, is absolutely and utterly the worst thing I've ever read. Care for Calais, the charity, which is full of middle-aged women who want to shag black men, basically, is now giving away free phones, thanks to Vodafone.
Yeah, this is another organisation I've got to boycott, alongside Wix, Costa Coffee, Ben & Jerry's, and of course the RNLI, should be renamed the Migrant Taxi Service. Look, this is appalling. And look, Vodafone obviously have probably done this, because of their woke credentials, no doubt, as a corporate, because they feel that they should be doing something for the poor migrants. But someone in their PR comms team would have said, hey, this is a good idea. Yeah. They probably leaked it themselves, but this will have a catastrophic effect. And funny enough, I moved away from Vodafone a few months ago because their service was absolutely crap, in my opinion, to someone else. If I hadn't done that, I think today I would be boycotting Vodafone. Look, it's enabling, isn't it? It's empowering legal activity. I mean, by treating, as I think is the technical term, treating effectively criminality, so offering incentives to provide for and allow that criminality, is disgusting. It's disgraceful. I mean, I hope there's a statement from Vodafone, but actually probably, they won't issue a statement because the reception won't be good enough. But
Very good. I see what you did there. Final question. Swadman just asked it. What's it say on your T-shirt?
Oh, yes. I meant to mention this at the beginning.
We're only making plans for... Oh, look at that. Look at that. Wow. Very good. I've seen that T-shirt before. I like the way you did that slowly. Very good.
I know.
Russell, listen, get some sleep. Good to see you. Great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. And thanks for everything you did over the last couple of days. Russell Quirk, there, who is, of course, now deputy leader of the Reform group in Essex Council. So he's doing a great job. This Vodafone story is absolutely unbelievable, isn't it? I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. 2,500 SIM cards loaded with 6 months of free data given to Care for Calais for use by migrants who arrived in the UK on small boats. What's going on?
And people ask themselves, why do we have so many people that want to come to the UK?
Yeah.
When France, if they are fleeing persecution, if they are genuine refugees, France is a perfectly safe country. Well, it might be not just the hotel accommodation that you get, the £50 a week, the dentistry, the doctor's appointment. Now you get to move into a middle-class area, and you get your free, free phone.
I mean, I've been fortunate enough never to have been turned down for a phone contract, but people have been. You can walk into a Vodafone shop anywhere in your local town, and they'll go, "Oh, sorry, your credit rating is not very good. We can't give you a contract. You'll have to get a pay by what do you call it? A pay-as-you-go phone."
Go.
But these guys are getting a contract. It's just unbelievable. unbelievable.
Yeah, people that we don't know who they are, we don't know where they've come from. They throw their passports over into the river.
I guess we know their phone numbers. That's the only thing we do know about them.
Yeah, we don't know where they are.
Go, do you fancy a free pizza? But it tells you everything that's wrong with the way that this country is being operated now.
Yeah.
And care for Calais, as I say, I was being slightly disingenuous there describing the people, but we had a video the other day where they're all dancing around in Dunkirk with the migrants, and these sort of middle class women who all look as if they're in need of a good seeing to or something. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Are all kind of going, oh yeah, isn't it great? You know, lovely men coming from Eritrea. Isn't it marvellous? Let's go behind the bush. You know, it's horrible. What is going on?
Well, these people are deluded. And this is what really gets me, because I genuinely think most people, honestly, if you need to help someone in need, we as good honest Brits, we would, like Ukrainians.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and we consider those numbers of all the great stuff that we did. But the delusion here is that anybody coming across on a small dinghy, they must be who they claim to be.
Yeah.
You know, that they're a sort of 15, 14-year-old lost boy.
Yeah, right.
They've got an Adam's apple and a beard longer than mine.
Right.
You know,
I know. It's shocking.
They're not who they say they are.
It's like you turning up going, I'm 6.
Yes, yeah.
No, you're not. You know, you're 26, surely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's absolutely bloody ridiculous. But I don't. But it's like, why does anyone in corporate Britain, because corporate Britain is to blame here, think that that's a good, it's a virtue signalling exercise so that they can all sit in front of their board and go, oh, we're helping these poor vulnerable people to come to this country and we're giving them a free phone. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, because I think that will increase their investments from other international companies. If other governments abroad think that that's the right thing to do, if you're trying to court the Democrats maybe in America, then it's something that you might have a bit of a positive relationship with. But it's ridiculous. And for every one person that we are, giving out all of this stuff to, whether it's the hotel accommodation, whether it is the free phones, whether it's the benefits, we're actually sponging off taxpayers, hard-working people that are watching this show now and will do later on. People that actually work hard, pay their taxes, seeing that being spaffed up the wall.
We were speaking to what was his name this morning? Our friend the builder from the not Simon, no. Scott. There you go. Scott the builder, who was out there this morning, sitting in his van, gets up at sort of 4:30, 5 o'clock every morning, comes to work with his 2 sons, working for a living, hard grafting, and he's going, this is, the country's become a joke. He said, all I get chased for is money by the tax man. All I get paid, I have to pay VAT on this, I have to get council tax for that, and he's just trying to make a living, just trying to be an honest to goodness, hard-working Englishman.
Yeah.
And
totally.
The government doesn't want you.
And people, look, honestly, again, people, I don't think mind in this country if someone, falls on hard times and they need, to have benefits for a short period of time to get them back on their feet.
Fine. But it's a safety net. That's what it's meant to be.
Absolutely. But for people that have been in this country,
don't give them a free phone. Don't give them a free hotel. Don't give them free tickets to see Liverpool play in the Premier League. What's going on with that?
And we're helping completely the wrong people. Yeah. We should be helping people in this country that actually might have paid into the system that fallen in hard times. Not complete randomers that have come from, as you say, Eritrea.
Yeah, exactly. Who might actually wish to do us harm as well.
Absolutely.
Even into the bargain, Here's another one for you while you're here. Workers prefer a 0 hours contract to fixed hours for the same role, according to analysis for Labour ministers. Labour again trying to push the narrative that 0 hours contracts are bad. Everybody I know that works for like either Uber or who works in sort of hospitality or whatever, they quite like 0 hours contracts because they quite like the flexibility. But this kind of nonsense from the socialists that, that's a terrible thing. You're exploiting workers.
Yep.
And so they make it to the point where employers then go, well, I'll tell you what, 0 hours contract, 0 hours. We're not going to employ you at all, right?
Exactly.
Because we're not going to change the way we do it.
But their starting position, and everyone on the left seems to be that if you're a small business owner, right, and you're employing people, you're a bad person.
Yes.
You've got bad intentions about how you're going to employ.
Greedy.
You're going to exploit. You're greedy. You're going to sponge off your workers.
Right.
When small and medium-sized businesses are the bedrock of our economy. They are the people that.
Well, I mean, we're a great example of it. I mean, we started in January, right? It was me and Pooch. We used to come in here every morning and stare stare at each other and go, what are we going to do now? Oh, I just think anybody's going to watch it, you know. And now we've got about 6 people working here, you know, so we've employed people, and, you know, it's not easy to do, but we can't just turn around to them and go, we haven't made any money this week, we're not going to pay you. We have to pay them, and we have to pay tax, and we have to pay national insurance, and all of that, and we're creating wealth. And Andy Burnham wants wealth in every postcode, but he doesn't actually want to encourage people to do it.
Exactly. And I was having just this debate with a socialist yesterday on another channel, and she just wouldn't understand that actually 0 hours contracts works both ways.
Yeah.
It works if you're, like yesterday, if you're collecting your A-level results, and you might go to university, you might not, but say you do, you want your flexible time to be able to work in the summer or at the end of term. And you want those hours, and that's it. You don't necessarily want to be on a contract where you feel as though you can't commit to the hours. It's you've got full control of the hours that you do, and
you work when you want to work.
And you work when you want to work.
And that's a perfectly reasonable and usual kind of state of affairs, and it works for most people. And yet the government are trying to outlaw it on the grounds that they don't understand business.
And there's no one in the cabinet that's ever run a business in their life.
No. Well, I mean, look at Andy Burnham. They all think that growth and sort of stimulating the economy can only come from the government. Whereas instead, I mean, when he was doing that thing the other day, he was like, I've got an idea, you know, I'm going to give you a free bus pass, or I'm going to give you some money. Have you heard this ridiculous advert that's going out where you can get, you know, sort of, I don't know, £2 off a hamburger at Chessington or something like that, you know, helping people to go and, you know, use Britain's great facilities. And it says paid for by the UK government. And it's like, well, no, actually paid for by me. So I'm now paying for people to go to Chessington World of Adventures and take their children there. Whereas in fact, what I said, and I tweeted Andy Burnham, he strangely didn't answer me. I said, well, why don't you just give us more taxes a bit less, so we can spend our own bleeding money, and we can decide what to do with it. And you know, we don't want to give it to you, so that you can give it to him.
And that's the biggest con. You know, some of the announcements that he's made in the short time that he's been Prime Minister, which is, you know, taking 20% off hospitality. Well, that was put on by Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. So it's the Labour government that put on that tax in the first place.
Richard III, we call her here, by the way.
Rachel Thieves.
Rachel III. There she is. Because she's been completely
She's looking well.
She's not looking bad. You know, we've got another one, actually. We've got another picture of her, actually, as her there, where she looks more like Richard III than Richard III does. It's extraordinary. But
is that on her CV?
Do you know on her Twitter account now, she says that she's the MP for wherever it is, and also a former economist of the Bank of England. Doesn't mention the fact that she used to be the Chancellor.
Well, with her record, I probably.
I wish we couldn't remember that she was Chancellor. Anyway, listen, we've got lots to do here. Charlie, great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
And hopefully we'll be seeing you more over the course of time. If you're able to join us on a regular basis, that would be nice.
I'm only down
a lot
the road,
of people are saying, great to see Charlie Rowley on your channel. It's another watershed moment.
Very
good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Charlie Rowley, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be back, I'm sure. We're going to talk about a lot of things. Hiya, Chuck. Great to see you in the studio of Common Sense, says Jolly Choo Choo. Chuck, I've never heard you called that before. Well, it's American, isn't it? Because they used to call, whenever I used to travel around and cover old Love Charlie Rowley. Look at that. You got a fan club.
I think is that my mum?
Stop it. Just stop it. No, whenever Charles used to go, when he was Prince Charles, or he was King Charles, and he'd go to America, and they had no idea of the sort of protocol. And so he'd be walking into a building, and these TV sort of presenters would be going, "Hey, Chuck, Chuck, over here, Chuck," because apparently it's an American short form of Charlie, Chuck. So there you go. Maybe she's American.
I've been called worse. So,
I'm sure you have. Quite rightly too. Listen, we've got great things coming up. Hugh Andre's here. He's going to tell us about what's going on with We Served. We uncovered an incredible story just last week, and he's got an update for us where the government is trying to reclaim money, would you believe, from veterans who they say they've paid too much pension to. Absolutely unbelievable. Before that, though, who have we got?
Peter.
Oh, we've got Peter. Yeah, Peter McElvanny. Peter, very good morning to you.
Oh, hi, Aaron.
Is he there? No, he's muted. Have you muted yourself? I think you've muted yourself. We can't hear you. Rejoin, she says. You know what we haven't done? We still haven't done. Let's play one of the Nigel Farage clips, because we need to show off. We got Nigel Farage on the other day. Can we do one?
Yes.
Let's do it.
And we were done. And I was done.
Yeah.
You know, I'd been campaigning for a quarter of a century, more. By the way, this by-election, my last by-election was 33 years ago.
Wow, really?
Yeah, 33 years ago. So I've been nothing if not persistent, all the way through.
Well, you might get 2 in a year this time.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they might look rather silly, but you know.
Well, I think they look really idiotic now. Never mind what it's going to look like tomorrow.
I very much doubt that'll happen, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see, Mike. But look, I think, you know, the fact is, I came back into this 2 years ago. That was probably the most difficult decision of my life because I was giving up a lot to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm in my 60s. I've got grandkid number 4 on the way. I've got loads of things I can do in the worlds of broadcasting or lecturing. I've got big American connections. I've got a mate over there who's quite well known. And so coming back into this was the biggest decision of my life. Big sacrifice, not just for me, but for everybody around me. But I did it because I felt then, and I feel now, genuinely, that I'm the only person with the knowledge, the experience of life, and frankly the guts to take on the issues that we're facing as a country. And you know something? If we don't tackle these issues and turn them around, in a decade we'll be a third world country. All right?
Yeah, I know. And just finally, because I'm sure you've got a couple of other things to do this evening.
I've got 1 or 2 other engagements, Mike, but nothing as important as this lovely audience here.
Well, do you know what's great? That was Nigel Farage talking to me down in Clacton. We had him on exclusively Wednesday night just before the election, which he of course has won today. The count has come out. He didn't go to the count. Somebody pointed out to me he's the first person who hasn't gone to a count since Bobby Sands didn't go to a count when he was in a by-election. But we'll talk more about that coming up. Hugh Andre's here as well. Very good morning to you, sir.
Morning,
just before we come to you though, Hugh, if you bear with me, I'm just going to talk to Peter McElvenna from Hearts of Oak, who I think hopefully is now unmuted. Peter, how you doing?
I'm good. Apologies for that. Forgive me.
No, listen, these things happen. These things happen. Listen, I was looking at your Twitter account, and I know that we've got lots of other things going on, but interesting tweet you put out about Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Pakistan building a collective defence alliance. What's that all about?
Well, I actually came across reading a paper that I do love to read with a coffee is the FT, and actually reading that, and it was a tiny, tiny piece in it, and I thought, goodness, that sounds intriguing. So I delved into it, and this whole issue of Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan basically doing a NATO alliance that if one of them was attacked, they're all attacked. This is close to 400 million people, so it is the same size as the European Union. And if you look militarily, I mean, I'm concerned because of the religious aspect. We've never had a religious military alliance before. And of course, the 3 of them are all Sunni Muslim. They're all very much aligned on that side. And they've kind of flirted with the West. Saudi Arabia has been fairly Western. Turkey obviously is desperate to get that EU membership and has kind of flirted, but then Erdogan has also cut himself off. Pakistan are a strange anomaly in the mix, but they've all kind of worked together for about 40 plus years. Of course, Pakistan being the only Muslim nuclear power. And this is a whole change in, I think, the old guard, what we have seen traditionally, where America's ruled the roost in terms of military power. But because of the attack on Iran, that's where this conversation happened. And suddenly the 3 of them came together. I think they've also talked to Egypt. They're also talking to some of the UAE and others. But they realized that actually Iran, which is Shia Muslim, which is the other side, that's kind of where some of this split comes from. And of course, the Iranian attacks on those countries, and they panicked. So they've come together, the 3 of them, and done this alliance with Egypt possibly to join. And I'll just give you some of the figures quickly, because the figures are huge. If you look at militarily where they are and what they bring together, so they've got around 1.4 million active personnel. We've got 140,000. That's where that fits. If you go to military aircraft,
that's terribly distressing, though, isn't it?
Oh, I know. And then you compare military. They've got 3,500 at least military aircraft. We've got 500 max. Battle tanks, we've got about 150. They've got 6,000. And then even you compare that to the European Union, the 3,500 military aircraft, the 6,000 battle tanks, the over 350 naval vessels. That is very similar to what the European Union as a whole has, with 27 countries. So this is the change. And of course, the European Union have never been able, not that I want the European Union to get their act together, but of course, as always, they can never get their act together in terms of military alliance. But while they can't get their act together, while Britain decimate their military, while America are going on these wars that I don't think is beneficial to them or to the world, suddenly this issue from the beginning of the year with America going in has now riled up these countries and they've come together. So none of this is positive. None of these are necessarily good countries in terms of freedoms. And my worry has always been, when I've looked at China and the Middle East, the Islamic countries, those are where the push comes from economically. But now we're seeing that movement militarily, and China wants to be number one. But if you've got this group, and this was signed in Mecca, of course, it was signed in Mecca, and that kind of shows the power of this, and where exactly they want to go. And that statement that this is a religious issue. It's not just military, because why would you sign it in Mecca? That's the last place you'd think of signing that. If you're in Saudi, you'd signed it in Riyadh, but yet it was signed in Mecca. So all that points towards where we are moving towards this. So it's scary, and it's something that slipped under the radar. And I do appreciate you having me on, Mike, to talk about this. And I think it's maybe a different angle to maybe most of your viewers were thinking Nigel, Clacton, Binface. Actually, this is also happening. This is maybe even more scary than Count Binface.
Well, do you know, it's interesting. Hugh Andre's here, and he's a military man. And one of the things that I think is lacking in our society these days is that we become very monosyllabic about stories. You know, suddenly there's one story in town and we don't talk about anything else. Whereas this, I mean, I saw that tweet of yours and I thought, you know, I confess I don't always look at the FT because, you know, I find it to be, you know, slightly annoying and far too left-wing for my taste. And occasionally I sort of have a look at the front page, but there are so many stories that sort of come in under the radar, if you like, that we don't know about. You know, I didn't know anything about this, and yet, it's, as Peter says, it's quite an important development, isn't it?
We make all of their kit and equipment. We service all it. We maintain, we repair, and we overhaul.
Yeah.
You know, Qatar, yes, has 3 million people. Only 300,000 were built there. Born there even. And actually, I'll say, you know, having experienced it firsthand when I was at Sandhurst, you know, the Saudi royal family, the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Omanis, all of them went to Sandhurst or Cranwell, etc. And they absolutely, forget America, our military is held with the most highest respect from those countries.
No, it may well be. It may well be. But what I'm saying is that, you know, these are not stories that we normally talk about.
No,
you know?
no, and to be fair,
you might know about it, but you know, I don't, and neither does Peter.
And to be fair, it was only, you know, the last World Cup in Qatar. Saudi Arabia weren't invited originally because they were having their own little domestic, you know, shenanigans. Remember, 100 years ago, there were 27 Bedouin families, and they've all broken out and set up their own little countries, etc. But certainly the Middle East, certainly in my experience and those who I actually trained with and came from those countries were good people, and they held the British, the royal family and the British military in the highest esteem, and they can have all the kit and equipment in the world, but if they can't operate it, they can't maintain it. You know, it was not dissimilar to what Johnny Mercer was saying about the battle space, not the battlefield anymore, is changing. And it's being driven by AI. We're having, you know, aircraft. Even our own government's talking about increasing what we're spending on defence in 2030. And by the time you spend that money and your aircraft arrives, it's 2060.
But I mean, you're saying, in a manner of speaking, and Peter, I think, is also saying it, we're getting chased away by people who are finding that their military capability is increasing faster than ours is. So, you know, almost everybody else
Yeah,
has got a better military operation than we have. And if we may be helping them, we may be giving Saudi all the things that they've got. But if they've got a better military than we've got, why are we doing that?
Well, they got more kit and equipment. I mean, in Qatar, every soldier has not 1 or 2 personal weapon systems, 6.
Right.
The last time I looked, I had 2 hands.
Right.
So quite.
But that's what I mean. So it's all gone.
I think it's a world, and I think the world we're living in is becoming more unstable, and they're now realizing, you know, they don't whether it's, you know, Israel or Iran, etc. People are suddenly realizing they've got to invest money in their own sovereignty. In their own country,
but they're doing it,
and we need to.
And we're not doing it, Peter. Right?
Yeah,
isn't that the point? I suppose you're making, right?
Yeah, yeah, man. You to put Egypt's 120 million. You put them in the mix, you're looking at $500 million. So this is substantial, and this is no criticism on. I talk to those who have served, especially in the U.S. military. I talk to those who have served with UK troops, and there's huge respect, and they are so sorry for the state that we are now in.
Yeah.
And we don't have British exceptionalism like America have. America still believe, you know, we can win anything. It's irrelevant whether our sailors are. Yesterday, sailor jumped overboard because they've been at sea for what 6 months, 7 months, something like that, and you cannot cope if you're away. And never been. I always wanted to join the RAF. I wanted to fly. That was where I was going, but I've never served in the military. But yeah. Whenever you're contained like that and people are jumping overboard because they literally cannot cope, and that maybe shows maybe America stretched too far. I don't know, but America think they can win anything, and Iran have shown actually no, you can't. Now you're being forced to the negotiating table. Now you're being forced to talk to a government that butchers its own people in Iran, and be nice and suck it up and do an agreement with the IRGC. Who would have thought that? I mean, where's the, you know, we don't negotiate with terrorists, which are basically what the government is in Iran. And America have gone to that with no clue of actually freeing the people from that regime. And all that's happened is they've left an utter mess. And that mess has meant that other countries say, well, if we can't rely on the West, then we're going to come together and we're going to group. And my worry is that those countries, I mean, Saudi have always been dependent on the West. My worry is that then will slowly move away and they will want to become self-sufficient. And they have the money. They don't have necessarily the R&D development, but if that's where they want to go, they will work towards that. And if Britain do not have and I know our aerospace industry is huge in Britain. I was just at Farnborough Air Show a few weeks ago, and it's wonderful to see. But actually, at the Farnborough Air Show, this is an example. The Red Arrows were not flying. Who was flying? It was it was a team from Dubai were flying. So the UAE were in Farnborough, the home of British aerospace, and the Red Arrows were not there, but the Middle East. And to me, that shows you've got to change the guard. We couldn't even get our aircraft to fly there, but hey, the Middle East can. And they were showing off their great aircraft and what they can do, while ours are grounded somewhere. I think it does show a massive move away. And of course, you look at Rolls-Royce and British Aerospace and how well they're doing. Yes, that's one side. But if we as a nation choose not to buy equipment, and who knows whether we'll ever get to 3% at maybe 2050, who knows? And I don't trust either government to plague on both their houses on the Tories and Labour, because both of them have decimated our military from when it was, 5.5% during the Falklands, it's now 2.1%. And we obviously cannot go to war. We cannot fight a new theatre. And while that is happening, while we've been weakening, while the EU have been bickering, then while Germany and France couldn't even agree on building the plane together, and that's now fallen apart, Britain are leading the new one. But yet, in that time where we cannot get our act together, other countries are getting their act together. If it's 500 million people that have a very different worldview than us, I remember sitting 2 weeks ago talking to a lady. She was married to an Egyptian. She raised tons of money in Saudi, and she was so happy that they now allow her to drive. Is that fair? That's just an example of the freedoms that these individuals have, especially women have in these countries. And for us to realize this is a change of the guard, and those ideas, those beliefs, that worldview actually backed with the military, that could change the whole structure of the West. Well, America are left trying to hold on to that number one spot. China are pushing that. Now these countries in the Middle East are striving for that. So it's really concerning, and a story that's gone under, and it doesn't negate the respect that we have for our troops. Sadly, the British government do not have the same respect for our troops.
No, I think you might be right. Peter, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I've got a little message to give out just before I come back to you, Hugh, from Charlotte's Auntie Loz and Uncle Brian, who are in Burnley. Apparently avid fans of the show. Auntie Loz says, I'm livid with Vodafone, but we're tied into a contract. Well, so am I, but I've just cancelled it. Because I think you should be able to. Because I don't want to be paying money to an organisation that's giving free SIM cards to illegal migrants. Thanks very much indeed. And I don't know what the legal position is, but I will therefore. I've been with Vodafone since the 80s. I'm cancelling today, says Graham. Yeah, I mean, I don't see why you can't opt out of a situation if you don't like what it is that they're doing in terms of their commercial activities. I'm sorry. Morning, Mike. Can you get someone on who can give us some advice on how to get out of a Vodafone contract? I can't afford to just cancel and pay out the rest of my contract. I also need a number for work. Yeah, no, I get that, Paul. I don't know what the next phrase will be, but I'm doing it. I've just done it. I've urged all Vodafone members to cancel their contract. Well, I'm doing it. I'll tell you what, I will report back to you on Monday as to how it all works. Mike, you will have to cancel your contract as well, or Vodafone will still charge you. It took me 3 months to get £5,000 back when I paid them by mistake. They are a terrible company. Yeah, well, you know what? We might get Mr. Loophole or somebody on Monday. Should we do that? We'll try and get somebody on who can help us with... who's a good consumery person that we know who can probably help people to get out of things. If it's not Mr. Loophole, Nick Freeman, it might be. I'll have a think about it over the weekend. But we need to check that out. Also, Hugh Andre, before we come to you to talk to you about a terrible situation that's going on with the service personnel, can we play, because we've got a big new show coming up, which is called This Was My Life, right? Yeah. Which you might want to come on, actually, because it's all about ordinary people who've had extraordinary things happen to them, adversity, nastiness, horrible things, but they've sort of come through. And I know you've had your own struggles and you've had your own background in the military. This is the first episode that we filmed it the other day, and it's actually the guy who's my personal trainer who was stabbed in the neck when he was out one night in London, nearly died. And was in a hospital for several weeks. It was in a coma, was out of operation, thought about killing himself basically because his life was over. Have a look at this.
Yeah, I would have gone outside and interacted with a couple of my friends, and it was kicking out time at the time, so it was quite early hours of the morning. Yeah, and sometimes when we go outside, you've had too much alcohol. When the fresh air hits, you kind of have like that daisy period of I don't remember, what's going on. So you kind of like black out for a bit, right? So I was kind of in that space. Right. And then this sharp pain comes on, right? And I remember feeling as that was a sharp punch.
Yeah, like somebody punching in the neck.
Yeah, and the punch felt different. I used to do boxing for many years before this. And I was like, this is very different. This is very painful. So, and that came, I really didn't understand where that punch came from. Right. And I remember putting my hand here onto the neck and seeing blood coming out of it. And then I immediately realized, wow, I've been stabbed, and I've been stabbed in the neck. Right. Obviously, that was my first association because of how much blood was coming out.
Was there a lot of blood?
There was a lot of blood coming out. Right. So. In certain situations, you have the fight or flight, the reflex. Or
Did you see who had done it? Did you know?
No.
Didn't see anything.
So I'll come back to it and I'll explain exactly what had happened. Right. But I remember I was like, wow, this is serious. And so my body or my brain or whatever at the time immediately told me, right, I need to do certain things. Yeah. To aid my survival chances, and I ended up applying pressure onto the wound,
Did you have a cloth or something like that, or just your hand?
Your hand, right?
So
a lot
you
of pressure.
knew that you had to do that.
Yeah. So from the police training and watching movies, etc. From again, like the experience that I witnessed in the police, I know, and the first aid training, security guards, so on. So that is obviously when someone's injured, bleeding a lot, you apply pressure, right? Yeah. Or if they're bleeding out heavily through, let's say, through the lower part of the body, you tourniquet them or whatever. Yeah. Obviously, in this area, you can't put a lot of tourniquet, so the only thing you can.
That is an incredible story. It's going out today at 12 o'clock. And Artur is running in something which you might appreciate. I think he's doing it at Richmond Park on Sunday, the Spartan race, which involves basically a 21-kilometre run involving jumping over all sorts of obstacles in sort of the final 10 Ks of it. So because he's doing it, because one of the reasons he's still alive is because he was saved by the London Air Ambulance Brigade. So he's raising money for them. So if anybody is able to, and I know it's difficult at the moment because not everybody's got any money to knock around. Here's one, Charlotte, I'd love to go on an episode of that show. In 2017, I nearly died. I got a liver last minute. I can do Zoom. Feel free to ask questions, Cindy. Yeah, listen, I mean, we're looking to do stories of ordinary, you don't have to be famous, you don't have to be a celebrity. Anybody who's got a story to tell about triumph over adversity, we'd love to tell it, because we live in an extraordinary world, and I don't want to get too kind of dewy-eyed about life, but I was talking to Pooch yesterday down in Clacton, and I said, you know, in the old days of Fleet Street, we used to believe that you knock on any door and there's a story. You know, and somebody, no matter who they are, no matter how lowly they think they are, they've always got a story, and you will know that from your life experience, you know. And I want to kind of bring that back. I want to start talking to ordinary people. Forget about celebrities, forget about politicians. Ordinary people who have got a story to tell, which might be uplifting, it might be sad, it might be really, you know, desperately, you know, upsetting. But let's hear the stories.
And it's authentic.
And it's real, yeah, absolutely.
And that's in this world we live in now.
And we
trying to identify authenticity is becoming more and more of a struggle. Forget celebrities and that world they live in.
Forget about Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah, no, and, real people with real stories who do a real day's work.
And real struggles.
Graft.
Real struggles.
The single mum doing 3 jobs to put her kids through X, Y, and Z. That to me is what is inspiring in human nature.
It's what we should be all about. It's what this station will be all about.
There's a book.
You're going to do a show.
Yeah, there's a book coming out actually in the next week or two called "The Science of Humanity in an AI World."
Right.
And there's a chapter on WeServed.
Yes.
And myself.
Okay.
And why did I set it up, and how did it come about? And it is about remembering, you know, real people who achieve real things against the world.
Because in a way, with AI, it's almost like it's more important than ever to recognise proper people and proper individuals and the human condition in a way, you know, because AI is kind of trying to replace us, if you like.
But AI is written by humans.
Yes,
and we have to remember that. And I'm to be fair, hands up, I'm using it more and more now at work to create documents, get
people
a view,
do,
etc. But I know that it only does 70-80% of the job.
Right.
You've got to.
And you sort of still have to instruct.
You still have to, you know, and you have to check it. And, you know, I was working quite late last night and found mistakes in a document and said, that's not correct. It's not 6.8 million, it's 680,000. Oh, yes, correct.
Right. Yeah, you absolutely have to police it. We've been rattling on for so long, we haven't got a lot of time, but talk to us about the story that you told us about last week, which is incredible.
Absolutely.
That ordinary members of the armed forces, veterans, are being asked to repay money, unbelievably, to the government because they've been overpaid in a screwed up pension plan. So what's the latest?
I think I just want to set the stall out and be really clear here. There are 2 claims going on. There is the claim which affects about 1,000 or so veteran pensioners who, through mistakes made by 2 service providers that the government has appointed, Soprasteria and Equinity, mistakes have been made, it happens, and they've overpaid up to 1,000 veterans, tens of thousands, and there are cases of over 100,000.
Yeah.
And now they're demanding the money back. And we're
Right.
saying no.
Right.
It's your mistake.
Yes.
You own it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, there is also then on the other side of the fence, the DWP. Now, this affects about 68,000. That's more complicated. It's to do with PIPs, it's to do with universal credits, etc. We served, you know, we're small, we're still early days, startup, trying to find our way, make our way and make a difference. What we want to do is support those 1,000 who are being hounded for money because of the mistakes made by two organisations appointed by the government. So at the end of the day, the government needs to own this.
Yes.
And we're talking 5 million. Okay. Now, to you, me, the man on the street, that's a lot of money. Yeah. To the government, that's one wing on a fighter aircraft. One wing. So what we're saying is we want the government to waive the overpayment reclaw.
Yeah.
Because this is going to create hardship. It's going to create homelessness. And by God, it's going to create ill health.
And in some cases, people are being asked to repay tens of thousands of pounds.
Over 100,000. I know of 2 or 3 who are over 130. One's 139, 100. You can't do it. And it's not their fault. Right. It wasn't their mistake. Right. You know, these are individuals in their 70s, 80s, whose pensions payments started being taken probably back in the 70s. Yeah. So what we're saying, we've set up a petition online, change.org, and we're asking people to sign that petition. And you, Mike, as you know, as our first non-military ambassador, we've also now launched a UK Live page on the WeServe platform.
Okay.
Yep.
Because we've been hoping for that.
Yep.
So that's now live.
That's now live.
Okay, brilliant.
So please, you know, if you're a supporter of the armed forces, of our veterans, you know, Mike's amazing show, then go on the weserve.com. We're also setting up what a Civi Army supporters page. So there will be, it doesn't matter if you haven't served in the military, of course that's what we're about, supporting our brothers and sisters in arms after military service ends. But we're very cognizant of the massive support we get from your viewers, from the wider public. And so we want to enable, you know, the public to come and also be part of the WeServe platform to join us. But you were talking earlier with your former guest, it's hard at the moment. You know, we're self-funded. We've taken no government money,
and
no
you're
taxpayers.
Looking to try and raise some more money.
We're raising money at the moment. We have about 30 or 40 veterans who've invested in the business. Because look, I'm a capitalist. I believe that we need to create business. We employ our own. We train our own. We upskill, retrain veterans so they can go and, you know, help you run your business, whether it's in the media and production, facilities management, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But, you know, we have to create our own business that creates profit. Yeah. And by the way, when people do fall into hardship and they need to rely on the system, it's our profit that's been generated that helps them. And quite rightly so.
True.
But yeah, so, you know, what I'm saying to people at the moment is we're about to go out to our current investors and say, look, we want to raise, because we've actually been appointed by Wiltshire to run Wiltshire. This is Wiltshire MOD, Wiltshire NHS. We have 62,000 in the military community in Wiltshire. And we want to improve their connectivity. Okay. So if you're a family, you know, Mrs. Miggins up in Catterick, her husband or her husband or his wife, whomever, gets posted down to Wiltshire, they'll be able to go onto the WeServe platform and look at all the schools, the doctors' surgeries, where, you know, what council tax bills need to be paid. Everything will be in one place to help them move far more smoothly. If their child has SEN, special needs requirements, then the schools will be on the platform that can offer that support to their kids. So it's really all about connectivity, and it's about really providing the jobs, the training, the housing, the healthcare and well-being that our veterans and their families need after military service. And obviously, Mike, you've been a huge supporter, and that's why we want to promote UK Live on the platform and allow our members, and we've got 21,000 so far. They can go in and they can watch your shows, watch the channel shows, etc., and contribute, and we support and help one another.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Hugh, great to see you.
Thank you.
Ever. Have a good weekend. Lots and lots of things to think about there. We'll put some links out as well if you can give them to us before you go, so we can connect everybody up, because it's what we do. And I'm really enjoying actually where we're going with all of this, because it seems as though we are building a bit of a community, and who better to talk to about that than our favourite bishop, Bishop Kai Dewar, who joins us now from Wales. Bishop Kai, very good morning to you, sir.
How are you, Maserati Mike?
Listen, I'm feeling good because, you know, this week has been really an eye-opener for us. We were down in Clacton at the weekend, during the week, and so many people came to see us, and they talked about how helpful the show was to them and how they loved being part of what they thought was a sort of community. I feel like we're building a sort of community of like-minded people. Hugh amongst them, yourself, many others who we have on the show regularly. Not because we all think the same, but just because we all know that we need to help each other to get through these difficult times that we're in. And you, as I say, you're a great member of that community. And it feels like something's happening. It feels like we're building something, you know?
It is, and what is being built is, to me, truly transformative amongst what's happening in the nation. You know, I look at my own life. You talk about this has been an interesting week. The last 7 days for myself and Chris Wickland, the ex-vicar, and even my own Archbishop in Tennessee have been very, very interesting. Last week I had my latest security threat assessment report, which is normally like 3 pages long.
Yeah.
And this time it's 19 pages.
Blimey.
Because the threats now against me are deemed to be severe. And they've listed a whole load of security measures I've got to take. And like, you know, I can no longer use my vehicle, the one that was attacked, because now the license plate is being tracked and all this kind of nonsense, right?
Wow.
But the support that has come from the community that is being built by what you're doing through UK Live, and by the like-minded people that realize what's happening in the United Kingdom and are not sitting back anymore, but want to be involved in saving our country, saving our heritage, saving our faith and our church, not just from with, you know, the kind of pro-Islamic agenda, but the takeover of woke, of liberalism, of, you know, waking up to the reality of how truly dangerous the political left are. And for everybody that for so long has been categorized as far right, are just ordinary, sensible, individual members of British society that actually care about what's going on enough to speak against it.
Yeah, absolutely. And is it terrible? I mean, I said this, and I don't wish to sound melodramatic, but, you know, when Nigel Farage was able to come and talk to us, we didn't know he was going to do it until about half an hour before he came in. And he had to have, the security guys all came in ahead of him, and they had to make sure that everybody in the room was checked out and all the rest of it. And as I sat there, I didn't think about it as I sat there, but later, I thought to myself, I'm sitting on a stage with a guy who's the target of an assassination attempt. And, you know, I'm sitting next to him. So I'm also now a target of an assassination attempt. And it's truly quite unsettling, isn't it?
Unfortunately, we all are. And I've in my own life, I've gone from, like you, the guy that sits with people that are, to suddenly now having to face the reality that I've got to have security travel with me to major events, and I've got to have people in, you know, I won't tell people where we stash them in church, but there are security in the church that just look like congregants. So, you know, now this latest
you suddenly
report,
start changing the way that you start not telling people where you're going, or you start saying, well, you know, I mean, a while ago I stopped tweeting out pictures of myself and where I was until I'd left there. You know what I mean?
I'm in exactly the same boat. I'm in exactly the same boat. I've had people turn up here in the county looking for me. When the last time I was in London to do Talk TV and then to do the Dan Wootton show, my security people called me to say, Bish, where are you? Because there's 6 men patrolling Whitehall and Waterloo looking for you.
Wow.
To do me as my grandmother would have said, to do me a mischief. But enough of the doom and gloom. This is Great Britain.
Yes, this is Great Britain, and we are building a great community, and we are resilient, you and I. I mean, we've faced it down before, and, I'm not frightened by it, by the way. I don't want anyone to think that, you're intimidating me, because you're bloody well not.
They're just going to make me speak more, that's all that happens.
Me further forward, exactly right. I just am a bit more careful about who's over there, But let's hear your sermon for the day. Let's hear your message.
Thank you, my brother. Well, my brothers and sisters, there are moments in history when God does something extraordinary. Very often he begins with someone entirely ordinary. Not a king, not a prime minister, not a celebrity, not someone with wealth, influence, connections, or power. Just someone willing to say, Lord, here I am. Use me. In 1904, Wales was approaching one of those moments. A minister named Seth Joshua had been praying for years that God would raise up an instrument for revival from among the ordinary working people of Wales. Someone from the mines, someone from the fields, someone who understood the lives of ordinary men and women. And then in September 1904, at Blaenanach in West Wales, Joshua prayed a very simple prayer. He said, bend us, O Lord. Sitting amongst those gathered was a 26-year-old former coal miner named Evan Roberts. Roberts had spent years underground. He wasn't powerful. He certainly wasn't wealthy, and he definitely wasn't famous. He didn't possess some great ecclesiastical office. He was simply a young Welshman preparing for ministry. But something happened within him. As Joshua prayed, bend us, Roberts began to pray, Lord, bend me. Bend me, O Lord. See, my brothers, my sisters, that's where revival begins. Not with change them, not with words of God fixed the parliament, not even, Lord, sort out the mess in the church. Not praying, do something about this country, but simply praying, Lord, begin with me. Within weeks, Evan Roberts returned home to Lacha near Swansea. He began holding meetings and something caught fire. People came, then more came. Meetings continued for hours. The people prayed, the people sang, the people confessed, and people turned to Christ. The story of the Welsh revival began traveling all around the world. Now think about that. A coal miner, a young man from an ordinary working family in industrial Wales, and God used him as one of the most recognizable instruments of an extraordinary spiritual awakening. But that shouldn't surprise us, because that is precisely the sort of thing God has always done. St. Paul writes in 1 Corinthians, God has chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. God hath chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. You see, God has an extraordinary habit of choosing ordinary people. When God wanted to confront Pharaoh, he chose Moses, who was a shepherd in the wilderness. When God wanted to confront Goliath, he chose David, a shepherd boy with nothing more than a sling. When God wanted to proclaim Christ to the nations, Jesus didn't assemble a committee of emperors, philosophers, and aristocrats. He walked along the Sea of Galilee and called fishermen. Follow me, he said. Peter was a fisherman. Matthew was a tax collector. The disciples were ordinary men. Yet Acts 17 tells us that their opponents described the early Christians as people who had turned the world upside down. Ordinary people and an extraordinary God. And perhaps you may be listening this morning and you need to hear this. My brothers, my sisters, never confuse obscurity with insignificance. You may never have a platform. You may never have a title. You may never have great amounts of money. You may never have thousands of followers on social media. You may spend your life driving a van, teaching children like my wife, caring for somebody, working on a building site, farming a field, sitting behind a desk, raising a family, working a night shift. But if your life is surrendered to Jesus Christ, never underestimate what God can do through you. Because Christianity was never built upon the extraordinary ability of human beings. It was built upon the extraordinary power of God working through surrendered lives. See, Paul says in Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. Notice those final words, through Christ. That's the difference. The Christian doesn't say, I am powerful. The Christian says, Christ is powerful. The Christian doesn't say, I can change the world. We say, God can change the world, and he can use me to do it. Jesus himself said, without me, you can do nothing. And yet the same Christ tells his disciples that when the Holy Spirit comes upon them, they will receive power to become his witnesses. There is the great Christian paradox. Without him, we are nothing. With him, ordinary people become instruments of extraordinary things. And Britain desperately needs to recover that truth. We spend our lives waiting for somebody important to fix everything. We're looking for another politician, another government, another archbishop, another election or a by-election, another institution. But some of the greatest movements in Christian history did not begin in palaces. They began in humble prayer meetings. They began in people's homes. They began amongst fishermen. They began amongst miners. They began when one ordinary person became completely available to an extraordinary God. And perhaps the prayer that Britain needs this morning isn't complicated at all. Perhaps Seth Joshua's prayer still echoes across Wales and far beyond. Bend us, O Lord. But before we pray, bend us, perhaps we must have the courage of Evan Roberts to pray, Lord, bend me. Bend my pride, bend my stubbornness, bend my ambition, bend my fear, bend my heart until my will becomes surrendered to yours. Because you do not have to be extraordinary for God to use you. You only have to be available. The Bible says, here am I, Lord, send me. So wherever you're listening this morning, in a car, building site, office, on a farm, in a hospital, at home, perhaps wondering whether your life could possibly make any difference, remember that miner from Lacca. Remember the fishermen of Galilee. Remember David standing before the giant Goliath. And remember this, God has never needed extraordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. He needs ordinary people who will place themselves into the hands of an extraordinary God. So today, let us not merely ask God to change Britain. Let us not merely ask him to change your family or change your church, change your workplace, change your circumstances. Begin with the most dangerous prayer of all. Lord Jesus Christ, bend me, change me, fill me, send me, and use this ordinary life for your extraordinary glory. Amen.
As ever, brilliant. Great to see you. Have a fantastic weekend. And may God go with you, as we say.
And also with you, my brother. Have a great weekend. See you next week.
Thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we're going to have Plank of the Week. But first, this. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio by CEO and founder Cameron Parry. Cameron, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. Tell us what Tally Money is.
Well, at Tally Money, you get a savings account powered by gold. So we give you a sort code and account number in your name, just like a normal bank account, but instead of sitting in pounds, you now have milligrams of gold that we brand as Tally.
Okay. And how does it actually work sort of day to day? Do you check the gold price every day? Do you need to do that? How does that?
We use the spot price, what's called the spot price in gold, and that updates every minute. It's a live price. We don't charge any premiums or FX margins on anything on that. You just go about your day as though it was any other mainstream foreign currency, except that you see all your transactions in real time and you're not getting charged international transaction fees and things like this.
Okay, so if I move some of my money into Tally, because I've just opened an account, what happens to it? And is it one of those things that I'll just be watching all day to go, ooh, look what's happening today?
You might do, but you've probably got better things to do with your time, to be honest, Mike. I don't actually think about the little movements in price, because I know over time that on average it goes up more than 12% per annum, and it has each year for the last 10 years. Bank savings products or current accounts just can't compete with that at all. But the main thing is my money's sitting there. It's my direct ownership of an asset. When I use my Italia card, in London to buy a cup of coffee, the merchant still gets pounds.
Yeah, okay. To find out more about Tally Money and for a special offer for viewers of the Mike Graham Show, simply scan the QR code or click the link in the description right here. Now it's time for Plank of the Week. I did this last week and I actually just introed it myself. We have got a Plank of the Week voiced by Lewis McLeod, but since we can't do it, I'll do it. Now, it's time for Plank of the Week with Mike Graham, host and show creator. And who better to do Plank of the Week with than the two triumphant members of the squad from Clacton, Dr. Paul Cox, as I now refer to him.
He's never going to change.
And Mark Littlewood. By the way, congratulations, I think, first of all, is worth mentioning to all of us for hitting, what was the final number on that show yesterday? It was 145,000 people watched the combination of you guys and myself from 7 o'clock in the morning till midday. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, we are literally cooking on gas or whatever it is they say. So well
whatever
done
we can
to you
afford.
guys. Well done to you and well done to me. Nothing like self-congratulation in my view. Now, we've got a lot of really, really good planks this week because actually, because of, I don't know if it's because of Nigel Farage, but because of sort of the Clacton by-election, there's not that many political stories around today. So we've actually got some decent planks who are not at all really necessarily related to politics, which makes a pleasant change. So I'm going to kick things off, I think, with Paul. Thames Water. What do you reckon?
Thames Water. Big old problems with Thames Water. It's probably the only thing that should be nationalised, by the way. I don't know if Mark agrees with this. Mark and I haven't had this discussion. We have many intellectual discussions, actually, Nietzsche, etc. But we haven't spoken about the privatisation of water. I mean, what with droughts and hosepipe bans and all sorts of other niff-naff and trivia. Wildfires, yeah. We find ourselves. You'd think actually, if you just look at the front of the newspapers this morning, that the whole of Great Britain.
He's suddenly gone quiet. He's gone all quiet.
Lost Paul. I can just.
Yeah,
we've lost Paul's audio, but yeah, we haven't yet touched on water privatisation. My take on it, Mike, is water can be privatised, but you've got to privatise it well. I'm not sure we have privatised it well, so we're not punishing Thames Water.
I'm with you on that because I get very nervous when people start talking about nationalising things and saying, obviously it was a mistake to privatise it. No, it wasn't a mistake to privatise it. It was a mistake to privatise it in the way that they privatised it, which is not the same thing.
Bang on right, Mike. So the problem is we privatised it, but we're protecting the shareholders.
Yes.
Well, that's just madness, right? If Thames Water's, over, tons of leaks and sewage spills, the shareholders have got to lose their shirt. But we failed to do that. But amazingly, the whole debate about privatisation versus nationalisation of public utilities. I was on GB the other night, Mike, and one of my co-panelists
we can plug that in because I've got zero battery.
Blamed the drought on Margaret Thatcher. I thought this was a little bit harsh, given that Margaret Thatcher's been, not been on this earth for some considerable time. So
it is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the story today.
You might want to blame some of it on Thames Water, but blaming it on Maggie seemed a bit much.
Yeah, that does seem a bit harsh. I think we might have pulled back in a second. But the other story today, which was not just about Thames Water, but just water firms in general, 1.2 billion litres per day is what they lose into the ground, And if I've already seen today a message from Southern Water, which has been sent to my alternative address in Sussex, in which it says we may, over the course of the next several days, limit your access to water. So they're going to go, if you turn the water tap on, there won't be any water there.
Yeah. You would have thought in a kind of basically functioning sort of pseudo first world country, Mike, like Britain. I know we're doing everything we can to become a third world country, but actually getting water flowing when you turn the tap on shouldn't be too problematic, right?
No.
But we're now being warned that might not entirely be the case in the coming days. It's pathetic. It's pathetic.
Yes. Let's see if we got Paul. Let's see if we got Paul's sound back. Paul,
back.
are you
can you hear me, guys?
Yes, we can. You're back. I wonder if we're all going to have that situation. Do you remember in that documentary they did in America about fracking, where the bloke turns on the tap and flames start coming out of it instead of water?
Yeah.
That's the way we're going. Perfectly safe.
That's the way we're going if we don't cut our carbon footprint, Mike. That's what they're going to tell us is going to happen to us.
It's that footprint is, I don't know what size footprint we got. I mean, I'm a size 9. I think the UK's got size 209.
Yes.
But it doesn't make any sense, does it? I'm sure all of the common sensors watching this couldn't give two hoots, and I agree with them all. But they'll blame, so something will go wrong and they'll blame absolutely everything but themselves. What's something to do with us? What are you talking about? All the pipes are perfectly fine.
Well, I've always said I find it extraordinary that something that falls from the sky, which is apparently free to capture, costs so much money to distribute to other people. And you kind of go, surely it's a license to print money. How can you not make money capturing water that falls from the sky or that you suck out of the sea or something, whatever, and you give it to other people and you charge them for it and they can't pay anybody else because you're the only person that can charge it for it, and yet you still can't manage to make that a business? It's kind of insane.
Pretty good point. I'm still waiting to hear from Cox what it is that Thames Water have specifically
why
done
Thames Water
flanking.
flanking?
I mean, I know they're generally pretty useless, but what's the specific charge against them, Cox? You haven't made
come on, Dr. Cox. Let's hear from him.
There are. Sorry, I was just busy finishing my latest PhD. It's very difficult being me, as you all know, having met me. But look, there's several things plaguing Thames Water, actually. First of all, they've given their boss a £1 million bonus, which is I always think is amazing because, Thames Water famously have achieved very little. Spent a lot of other people's money and achieved very little. Like there's no water coming through the taps this week, for instance, and they never seem to clean their water, and they seem to pump their sewage directly into the nearest children's swimming area. But yet the boss is getting £1 million in a bonus, which is absolutely fantastic.
Sorry, did you not want any sewage with your water? No, not really, actually.
Hang on, Paul, you've got to explain this to me. What do you have to do at Thames Water to fail to qualify for a bonus then? If their performance over the last year is worth £1 million, at what point do they actually say you get nothing? I mean, it would be only sewage coming through the taps, would it?
At this point, the mind boggles, Littlewood. Maybe if he went down to the nearest swimming place where there was children floating about and took an actual dump himself, it might be reduced to 500,000. But other than that, I really doubt that there's anything you can do. Just turning up.
Brilliant. Speaking of water, Mark, you've got Cambridge Council for their interesting toilet installation this week.
Yeah. To remain with what appears to be the fecal theme of this week. Let's have a look at what Cambridge City Council have been up to, Mike. This really does take some doing, right? So the headline on the BBC website is Council defends £1 charge for new public toilets.
Of course.
It's always a story, isn't it? You know, do you charge or do you not charge? But
Yeah.
That's not really the
That's not
issue.
the story,
as far
is
as
it? No.
Yeah, I mean, not much of a story. But get this, right? These are, and sorry, I should have had a picture of it. They're very easily Googleable. These are not what you might call standard public toilets, mate. These are, surprise, surprise, given it's in Cambridge, these are woke public toilets. They are squat-style flushing toilets.
And they're designed by Jason Arday.
Yeah, exactly. This is all based on Jason Arday's PhD.
We'll all be going for an R day before we know it. That'll be the parlance. Where's Mike? Oh, Dodgy Curry's gone for an R day.
Brilliant.
So they have installed 3 squat-style flushing toilets, which are preferred by some international visitors, apparently.
Yeah.
Why we have to lean into accommodating the toiletry habits of international visitors rather than them adapting to normal British habits, I don't know. And these are squat style, so they've gone for some sort of international design. Amazingly, the Labour Council leader, a woman called Katie Thornborough, she came up with this quite extraordinary statement. This is what she said. I think the general consensus was that if we're going to provide toilets in Cambridge, they need to be clean and safe for people to go to. Do you think that's the general consensus? I mean, I would have thought there's universal agreement on that point.
Just general.
There's a few Cambridge Council saying that we don't think the toilets are dirty enough and they need to be a bit less safe.
A few dissenting voices have made it clear that
too clean for me, mate. Not going in there.
Yeah,
I think we've got a clip.
I think we've got a clip. Let's have a look at this.
Brilliant.
You see, you say squatting. That looks more like you have to lie down on it, don't you?
You have to make love to it, mate.
Yeah. You have you put your face in it? I don't know. I'd be confused by that, to be honest. I don't know what you do with that.
That'll be the next thing when it just Western blokes getting it wrong.
Which
looks
way's Becca?
Looks a little bit more like a torture chamber than a regular public toilet. Anyway, yours for £1, Mike, if you want to go visit. And, they don't actually provide you anything to sit on. But, savings must be made in these difficult times. So Cambridge City Council, thinking there is only a general consensus, only broad agreement that public toilets should be safe and clean, and then installing those, what do you call them, monstrosities, oddities? I think there will be a lot of very confused people who put their pound in and then walk in to see that. And it does seem from the reaction on the streets of Cambridge that most people are just avoiding them. They're, slipping into a pub or going into a shop. And
it seems to me that those people who are visiting the country, who prefer to squat, are doing it in your local park, to be honest. Actually,
but why bother going indoors when it's so deliciously lovely?
No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So I think they're chasing after the wrong buck, if you know what I mean. I'm going to go first with my first nomination, Edwina Curry. Now, you may have seen this girl. I think we've got the clip, haven't we? Let's have a look at the clip.
Good to see Edwina back.
Yeah.
The obvious thing that 1,200 young men are going to need in the middle of a village like Little Piddington is a brothel. I don't think they're going to provide that. I have a feeling that's not going to be allowed.
I love the fact that she thinks young men need a brothel. The funniest thing about this story is that I happened to be watching Dan Wootton last night, and he had Neil Hamilton on with his wife Christine. And Neil Hamilton said something which I never thought I'd ever hear on television. And he said, "I'd rather put my penis in a pencil sharpener than in Edwina Curry." Thought,
Dan said that.
No, Neil Hamilton said it.
Neil Hamilton.
Former MP. Neil Hamilton. Cash for questions said it. And I said,
does he think it's an either or, Mike? Is it really an either or?
Yeah. The first thought I had was, how small is his penis? pencil sharpener's not very big, is it? To be honest.
But Mike, if he's been continually dipping it in a pencil sharpener, it'll get smaller over time, right?
Yeah, sounds messy to me. But anyway,
why suggest it yourself? That's the thing, you know. Normally that's a punishment, isn't it?
Do you remember those ones you used to have at school with the thing that you went like that?
Oh yeah.
That was a slightly bigger version. Anyway, it's probably not something we should explore too much. But Edwina Currie famously, of course, had the affair with John Major, which everybody thought was incredible because nobody thought John Major even had a cock, to be honest. Anyway, but she's been roundly criticised by suggesting that they should. I'm not sure it's such a terrible idea, you know.
What, putting your cock in a pencil sharpener?
No, having a brothel for a load of migrants. A migrant brothel. Come on.
Was Edwina Currie sort of recommending this, but saying she thought it wouldn't happen, or was she suggesting that some people thought it should happen and she was against it?
Well,
I was a bit unclear of Edwina's stance on it.
I think we're back to the general consensus argument. Most people think it's a good idea, but nobody wants to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
I think if I could just add, I think there's a serious point here, guys, and I think we're remiss to think that we could just oversee this. Look, they are putting, 1,000, 1,500 sexually ready men from the African subcontinent who are used to seeing most women just by the eyeballs. And then all of a sudden they see a flash of ankle, and wallop. They're feeling sensations they've not felt for some time, and they think, do you know what? I'm going to put the pencil sharpener to one side, and I'm going to go and see if I can find somebody in the local park. And this is going to be. So what Edwina's saying is we need, obviously, because all young men from the African subcontinent are sexually deranged. According to her. Well, and the evidence is kind of there, to be fair.
Maybe Edwina should pop down and see if she can service some of them.
Just to quell and quench.
Well, pop down with a bag full of pencil sharpeners as well. You got to offer variety in this day and age, Mike. You've got to offer some
show's taking a very weird turn. You've got to go squatting on the toilet to put your pencil sharpener.
Wank of the week.
Yes, wank of the week. That's the new name. Right. Speaking of which, Andy Burnham, Paul, Dr. Cox. Come on.
Yeah. Look, do you know,
what's he in for
what?
this time?
Andy, I'm just going to give you a list of things that we could mention about Andy Burnham this week. Middle-class areas must take more asylum seekers.
Oh, yeah.
The prisoner early release row has continued. His 0 hours crackdown could cost business £3 billion a year, and questions are mounting on how he's going to pay for everything. Because of course he's made commitments to about £100 billion of spending before he went on holiday. I think mainly the focus should be on the fact that when questioned by the first journalist who's got a chance to question him, that wasn't sort of an influencer or someone from Reddit. It was actually Chopper from GB News, and and he answered the question by saying, "Well, middle-class areas will have to take their fair share. This is some sort of, World War II situation where we're all in this together." But it's not, is it? No one asked for it. For the last 20+ years, every single electorate has said, we don't want this stuff. And he's like, well, you're going to have it, and you're going to have it in Piddington and Lower Badger or wherever the next nice village is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and he doesn't seem to get it, does he? He really can't understand why people don't really think migrants going to their village or town is a good idea. He seems to think that it's a great idea, and everybody, everybody wants one. I mean, I nicknamed it a rapist in every postcode, which is obviously slightly harsh, but not a bad slogan.
Guarantee. That's the Burnham guarantee.
The Burnham guarantee.
Yeah, but what's so odd about this is he thinks that it's as if he thinks that we can kind of recreate the Blitz spirit, isn't it? By us all sort of competing together to house more and more migrants, that this will bring together some sort of social unity. We'll brag to each other about how many illegal migrants we're hosting in our town compared to somebody else. So as if we're making a greater contribution to the war effort, all for one for all. Well, good luck with that. I mean, this is going to go down like a cup of cold sick in every single town which is prevailed upon to have these facilities. And I'm expecting more and more towns and local councils, Mike and Paul, to fight back and say, well, look, we would help, but we don't really actually have the right local infrastructure here, and we won't have it until Edwina Curry has built a gigantic brothel. So get back to us when that's happened. Otherwise, we can't possibly accommodate these people. That's going to be the technicality by which people get out of having to chip in.
Can you imagine Nightingale brothels? We're managing to get them up.
Yeah, we built
10 a week.
We build
We've
them
got to put
fast.
these up really quickly.
Yeah, I think we got a clip. Have we got a clip? Yeah, go on. It's coming. It's coming. That's what she says. Come on then.
You knew about HMO Britain. You talked about that in that speech to your supporters. Last week we featured children in the village of Piddington. They've written to you personally. One called Rex Perkin, 7, says there's a new migrants camp being set up nearby. It will overwhelm the hamlet. He says, we like our village. We walk down to see my sister's grave. It will change. I've been here for 100 years. He loves the playing field. Thanks, Andy. What do you say to people like Rex, 7 years old, who sees his village changing irreparably because you're bringing in migrants to live in their area?
Well, I've begun to become aware of the campaign from Piddington, and I absolutely am prepared to
meet Rex.
I will listen to what people are saying and respond to the concerns that they are putting forward. I don't know the issue yet in detail, but in some ways, as I understand it, it is about creating secure space and not have the HMO issues that you were talking about earlier. It's obviously going to be challenging, but I am prepared always to listen to people, to work with people, and to pick up legitimate concerns. And I will.
He's not aware of the issue, right?
Yeah.
Also, have you noticed, I don't know whether it's just me, he speaks like someone who's asking for directions in Paris.
Yeah.
I would like to tell you where I am trying to go. And I will never shorten I to I'm. I will always say I am. It's really weird. He's told him to talk like that.
He's never across the detail either. Sorry, Littlewood, you carry on.
I wish his answer to Chopper had been when Chopper says we've got this 7-year-old boy called Rex from Piddlington, what do you say to him? I was half expecting Andy Burnham to say, well, 7-year-old Rex is a far-right extremist incel who's been going round the country whipping up hatred and division and has no place in modern society. I mean,
that's what Starmer would have done. So he's learned from that, right? So now he's the new Labour leader who doesn't.
Rex will feel the full force of the law.
The full force of the law.
What Chopper really should have done was Chopper should have held back that Rex was 7.
Yeah.
He should have tried to paint Rex as some far-right extremist.
Right.
Let Andy Burnham lean into it and then only reveal at the end that Rex is actually a 7-year-old boy. But yeah.
Also, is Rex really? Is there really a Rex? Are you sure Chopper hasn't made that up?
No, I'm sure, because it's been quite a clever campaign. They've had lots of kids in that area doing pieces to camera saying, dear Prime Minister, if you care about my safety, I hope you won't do this. And it's a bit hard to fight back and say, who are all these far-right extremist children in this neck of the woods?
Like the Hitler Youth or something.
Can you imagine?
We haven't got a lot of time here, so I'm going to rush through a couple here because I'm going to do the eclipse as a play.
Yeah.
I know Dr. Paul is an expert in this area, so I don't want to.
Yeah, I did my thesis, obviously.
But there's that thing about we haven't got time for you to explain the 400-mile theory, unfortunately, because it's very good. We may have to just refer people to a clip. But I just think the amount of rubbish talked about it, and the people that were saying, people on social media. Oh look, there's me looking at it. Apparently, that's the preferred method of looking at the eclipse. And my eyes
I
don't
thought
seem to have
Southampton
suffered.
Football Club had signed you, Mike. It looks like you're spying on somebody in that previous one.
That's it. Yeah, I'm applying for that job now that there's a very large woman in the background there. I didn't notice her before. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't hurt my eyes at all to look at the eclipse, which they said it would. They said, "Oh, don't do that; it'll burn your eyes out." My second nomination is Vodafone from this morning's Telegraph, where it appears that they've decided to give something like 2,500, is it? 2,500 SIM cards out to migrants as they arrive on our shores. Not only do they give them a phone, but they give them free data for the rest of time, it would appear. So I've actually today cancelled my, I'm told I'm now going to get into terrible trouble because I've got some kind of contract, but I've just cancelled my direct debit with Vodafone because I don't wish to pay for migrants to have free phones, really.
Yeah, that's pretty planky behaviour.
It is, absolutely right.
Very.
Back to you, Mark. Rachel Maskell. Who's that?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I know we've only got a couple of minutes, Mike, but I mean, this is Jason Arday levels of epic plankery by Rachel Maskell. I mean, when we get to the end of the year and we have to look at who should win the Golden Boot, Rachel definitely has a strong nomination here. So I think Charlotte's got a clip of this. This is a woman who is on the woke left and is very, very pro-Syrian refugees. Thought that bringing in 20,000, 30,000 wasn't enough. Charlotte, have we got a clip?
Have we got it?
We need to shout so much more and say 20,000 is not enough, 30,000 is not enough. At saturation point, because what does it matter if we have to wait another week for a hospital visit, or if our class sizes are slightly bigger, or if our city is slightly fuller? What does it matter if things are slightly more challenging, if we have to pay a little bit more into the system? Surely it is worth it to see those lives being restored again. And surely
Good morning again.
Yeah, the clapping in the background, that's quite something, isn't it? But Mike, the government's got news for Rachel, having heard her impassioned speech from a few years ago, that they want to put these 1,200 migrants in Linton-on-Ouse, which is in Wetherby, and 1,200 of them. It's not even in Rachel's constituency, it's in the next door neighbouring constituency. And you would have thought Rachel would have punched the air and warmly welcomed this news, given she's been campaigning for more and more refugees to come in. But no, Rachel has decided actually this scheme won't work at all. Don't really think it's appropriate to put any of these people in her neck of the woods, not even in her constituency, just next door. All sorts of apparent technical reasons why it can't be done. The ratio of men to women is it just isn't there. The local infrastructure isn't there because Edwina Curry hasn't built a brothel yet. She's clinging on to every last goddamn reason, having campaigned for more and more and more of these people. And so on Andy Burnham's thing that, let me just stand up for the Prime Minister, something I rarely do, that liberal middle class areas should take more refugees. He should go through the list of constituencies who have elected MPs like Rachel Maskell or councils that have voted for sanctuary city status and say, thanks very much for putting your hand in the air and volunteering. The first few coach loads will be arriving by lunchtime tomorrow. It's very good of you guys. Yes. But Rachel Maskell of York Outer, York City Council is a sanctuary city. I know which area should be at the top of Andy Burnham's list. If you volunteer, we'll very gratefully accept it. But dear old Rachel now appears to have U-turned.
Absolutely right. We're right up against the clock here because it's time for your new show to start at 10 o'clock. I'm just going to mention Jonathan Harvey. I don't like to say what his other name is, but just going to put him on there anyway because he deserves to be there because he stood in the Nigel Farage constituency of Clacton and didn't win. And so therefore, he's an idiot, and which we know.
Well, then he was the joint Tory Liberal Labour candidate, Mike.
He was. So, he was the establishment candidate, and he got completely, slummocked by Nigel Farage, who won with a bigger majority than he had in 2024, which is extraordinary. I think we're going to go with Edwina Curry this week because I don't think we'll see her like again. So Plank of the Week goes to her. You guys are going to take over for 2 hours of mirth and magic on the football front and on all other fronts as well. Good to see you both down in Clacton. Thank you so much. It was a great week. Mark Littlewood, Paul Cox, the Doctor, as we're now going to start calling him. Just the Doctor. Plague of the week, Edwina Curry thinks that a load of young migrants should be able to have a brothel for free when they come to this country. So not only do you get a free phone, you get a free hotel, you get free food, you get a free bike, and now you get a free woman. What on earth is going on? Edwina Curry, Plank of the Week. We will see you. Let's face it, coming up after Mark and Paul's show, we're going to be playing you the first ever incredible story of Artur Savickas, which is, of course, the That Was My Life. Also, we'll have more Plank of the Week tonight, and we'll see you over the weekend.
Thank you, everyone, for the super chats.
Thanks for all the super chats. Maybe they could play the super chats out.
We're not in a rush. Go on.
Can we do super chats? Oh, okay. The government really doesn't get it, says Uncle Joe. What part of the we British people don't want any more illegal or legal immigrants in the country do they not understand? No more Muslims go round. Is that clear enough, Andy? Thank you for that, Uncle Joe.
Another one coming, Mike.
Another one coming. This one from Seaside Babe. Edwina Curry, proof that one woman can egg an entire nation on. See what you did there? Very clever. She's just been made Plank of the Week. Con Grafty says, in Karakov, Istanbul, there is a church that was formerly a 100-year-old brothel and is now being restored. All right, okay. They had brothels in Pompeii as well, didn't they? KTR says, good morning all. Other 2, 3 and Tesco Mobile also donate free SIM cards and data to support vulnerable people, including refugees and asylum seekers arriving in the UK. Do they? I'm going to find another one then. Yeah. The Shepherd says, it's a sad world when a bishop has to have a security detail. Yeah. The bishop said he has to have security. Can't go anywhere without the security detail. Which is and then, any more? For any more? The Shepherd says, oh no, we've done that one. This one from Elaine, positive, jolly Mike and team, not the ghastly mainstream media. Thank you very much. We are jolly. Stable Fairy, packaging. We are being invaded by foreigners in shorts and t-shirts and the EU is worried about packaging. Are they? What are they worried about packaging for? Ray says this, what happens with an inevitable Ebola outbreak? I guess you get Ebola. Sorry. Kev says, is Andy Binham face related to Lord Binface? I don't know. I don't like to say Binface. Seaside Babe, 34 candidates stood against Nigel and he still won. I know. Mad, isn't it? What a waste of money.
Did you do from 44 Buddhists? Did you do this one?
May I appreciate everything you do. No, sorry, no, I don't think I did. 44 Buddhist. Mike, I appreciate everything you do in bringing the truth to a wider audience. Your guests are superb, and the mix of serious issues and humour is a joy. I hope there is no way in which your show can be cancelled. I don't think it can be. And the only person who cancelled me now is Pooch.
9, 8. Just switching between the two.
Cookie
He's
Boy
reading out the
says,
Cookie
it's no
Boy
longer the
chat.
inept politicians that should be standing for Parliament, it's their advisors that should stand and be voted on. Lots of super chats today. Great live shows, Mike. Pooch, Charlotte and Yalina. Welcome to the family, Charlie, from Titnorth. That's Charlie Rowley, I think she's talking about. And this one from Kev. Didn't Edwina give her eggs to John Major? Well, I don't think it was her eggs she gave him. He's never forgotten it. Anyway, I think that's it. So listen, I'm sorry to have run over slightly, but I'm delighted to say that coming up, Dr. Cox and his incredibly clever economist mate, Mr. Mark Littlewood. They'll both be coming to you for the next 2 hours. And then after that, This Was My Life, the first of a series of fantastic stories, ordinary people talking about extraordinary things. We will see you at 7 o'clock on Monday, but I'll be doing loads of stuff over the weekend as well, so don't worry about that. We'll see you soon.
The revolution will be televised.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, common sensors. Paul Cox here. Hope you're doing well this morning. Hope that your house isn't on fire. Hope a train hasn't come crashing into the garden. Hope there isn't some randy asylum sneakers camped in your shed. We have 2 hours of Mark Littlewood and Paul Cox for you to see the rest of the morning through. And talking of which, Mark Littlewood is not with me in the studio today. I have tried several times to get hold of him. I'm getting very, very, very secretive messages. Mark, are you there? Where on earth are you?
Not here yet.
And Mark's not with, it's so secretive that Mark's not even with us. So we'll get back to Mark very, very shortly. Let's just for a moment go over the statistics we saw from Clacton last night. So a much awaited result from Clacton last night. Nigel Farage has reigned supreme once again and is the MP of Clacton with a turnout of 43%, which is actually down on the general election, but he picked up more votes than he did in the general election in 2024. He got 63% of the vote. Count Binface, Mark Harvey, the BBC representative, picked up 27% of the vote. And of course, that 27% of the vote equates to everything that every other party would have got in Clacton. This is a resounding victory for Nigel Farage. Let me know in the chat what you think. Does this put this whole situation to bed? Was Nigel Farage right? That's my question today. He has won. He goes back to Parliament. He reigns supreme. Was he right? Do we have Mark back?
Not quite yet.
No worries. We don't have Mark back. Well, we've got a show for you today. We got Bill Etheridge coming on. We got Alan Cook of Reform coming on. We have got June Slater, who I'm very excited to be talking to later. I've been a keen follower of June, even before I started my media career, always watching what June was doing. And then it's Friday, which means that we have got the Glindex back. The Glindex will be with us with some statistics later on today. So where should we go? Let's talk, okay? So I'm going to, look, Count Binface got 27% of the vote. 27% of the vote. What, is this a serious country? Are we a serious people? I was in Clacton just this week for a couple of days, and I didn't meet anyone that wasn't a Reform voter. I did meet someone who was a traditional Labour voter who would have voted Labour if they bothered to stand a candidate, but was voting for Reform as a Labour voter because they believed Nigel Farage was the only one in their constituency taking the job seriously. What do you think of that? Let me know in the comments. Here's what I think. I think that Clacton deserved better. I understand exactly what Nigel Farage did. In fact, I've been a supporter of it right from minute one. Nigel Farage, as far as I'm concerned, was right to cause that by-election, to change the narrative, to bring the narrative back under his control. Not because I'm a Nigel Farage supporter, not because I vote Reform, but because I want to see common sense returned to Great Britain. And I believe that comes from the right of politics. Nigel Farage is the chief commander of the right of politics right now. Yes, Kemi Badenoch is the leader of the opposition. Yes, the Tory party has an illustrious history of both success and major failure, especially in the last 14 years. But Nigel Farage is leading the charge now. Restore didn't stand a candidate. Restore stood down. Labour didn't stand a candidate. Lib Dems, Conservatives, all saying this was a fake by-election. Of course it was not a fake by-election. It was nowhere near a fake by-election. Say that to the 30,000 people that went out and voted in Clacton yesterday. Every single one of them legitimate, meaning that the by-election is legitimate. If now Nigel Farage goes back to Parliament and the Standards Committee say to Nigel Farage, you are guilty and you are suspended greater than 10 days, there could be another by-election in Clacton. Can you imagine that? That is absolutely outrageous. What does that say, common sensors? Tell me in the comments. It's not impossible. They still have the knives, the metaphorical knives out for Nigel Farage. They are not going to let this go. And look, Nigel Farage did receive a gift of £5 million. He did receive it within the window he should have told the the parliamentary committee by their own rules. Were the rules right? The rules are the rules, aren't they? Who's to say that they should be absolutely right? Here's my view on that, by the way. Just because a selection of cross-party flannels have decided that we must have these rules to uphold doesn't mean that it's best for the people of Great Britain. I don't think it is. I mean, I don't think it is at all. But we'll get on to that, and I'll talk to Mark Littlewood about it very shortly. Mark, who has lost his connection, much thanks to the people trying to sabotage him, is back. Littlewood is back. It's not just Cox standing alone now. Littlewood is with me also. Mark, what on earth is going on?
Well, that's what we need to find out, Paul. I don't know if you can hear me. I've been hearing you twice, so I'm still getting the problem of your feedback loop. So I think the hackers are still with us. Every time you speak, I'm hearing it in echo. As you know, I'm a fairly low-profile kind of guy, so I've been tried to go in incognito mode. I don't know if you can hear me loud and clear, or if you're hearing me.
Sorry,
twice.
Mark, I can hear you. It is a bit echoey, but I can hear you. We should pursue, because I know your life may be in danger too. So just carry on, get it done, keep calm, Littlewood.
Yeah, I'm now hearing you in triplicate, Paul. So
What a
I'm going to
delicious-
log out and log in again.
Mark is going. Mark, this is absolutely terrifying. Mark is a good friend of mine. He's not just a colleague. I am very worried for his welfare. I literally do not know where he is, why he's not here, and why there has been a problem. Look, the Clacton result. It's big news. Nigel Farage is back in Parliament. It's very important that we have Nigel Farage in Parliament, particularly if we want reform to do well, particularly, as I said earlier, we want the right of politics to do well. I want the right of politics to do well, irrespective of the mud chucked at me in the last couple of days as I stood up for Nigel Farage when he was in Clacton. I have never pinned my colours to the Reform mast or the Restore mast or even the Conservative mast. But what I do believe is they must all come together, because the right must win. And there is only one natural leader of all of those people in my mind now. It's Nigel Farage. It's Nigel Farage because Kemi Badenoch presides over a Conservative Party which let the great British people down considerably over the last 14 years. Kemi didn't, but the party did. And most people I speak to that were Conservative voters or are Reform voters now, or may have even gone back to Labour and the Lib Dems, do not support Kemi Badenoch on the basis of the legacy of her party. Rupert and the Restore Party, I think, have questions to answer. I'm not getting involved in that debate in the sense I'm not getting down into the minutiae. I don't really care what Charlie Downs has said. They each have their free speech. What I want is for the right to come together. What do you think, Common Sensors? Let me know in the comments. Sorry, what was that, Pooch? Bill's, we got Bill Etheridge. How you doing, Bill? I'm ever so sorry, Bill. You were expecting Mark, and Mark is definitely the best person to ask you questions, Bill. But how are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. Enjoying this lovely summer.
Yeah, I bet you are. Now, what do you make of the Clacton result this morning, Bill? Is this something that has energised you? Do you think it's the right result? What do you think will happen next?
I think there's a lot of nuance actually to this. Yes, it's a good result for Nigel, but we have to keep in mind that the turnout was relatively low, but he has increased his number of votes, which is no getting away from it. It's a good result. However, I do think that you're talking about Clacton, which if ever there was a home pitch for Nigel to play on, it's Clacton. There wasn't really any genuine opposition. It's a little bit like celebrating Manchester City winning 5-0 against the old Bulls head from down the road while playing at home at the Etihad. So I think it's not really changed much, to coin the phrase. I don't think it's shifted the dial particularly. But also, let's remember, Reform threw everything at this one. So yeah, good result for Nigel. I think he's secure in his position there, but it's not. I don't think it's proved much, other than the fact that Reform can very effectively get their people out.
Yeah, Bill, it's difficult not to agree with you there, because 63% is a good number. I think that actually Reform would have been hoping for 70 plus talking to people in Clacton this week, purely because they want to put this story to bed. The optics of 70 plus looks good. Count Binface getting 27%, doesn't win, comes in second place, and arguably is the amalgamation of everybody else's vote. But still, 27% is a lot of the vote, isn't it, Bill?
It's a lot of votes, and also I think it's 15% down the actual turnout. So those people who didn't come out to vote, one can only guess, but I would suggest they probably aren't Reform supporters. So when you look at it, where there's really a joke candidate who's getting a significant vote, and there's 15% of people less than last time who haven't voted. Yeah, I think Nigel would have won had the Conservatives, Liberals and Labour all stood candidates. But going forward, if Reform's share of the vote continues to slightly dip, and if things change a little bit, and if they can't throw everything they've got at it next time they have to stand there, which might not be too far in the future if the Parliamentary Standards report comes in the wrong way, I don't think it's something that can give Reform reason to be overly delighted. It's just a case of a job done out the way and a potential banana skin got passed, because let's be honest, other politicians in that situation could well have come a cropper. It's only because we've got the most effective politician of this century standing on home ground that made it pretty much a certainty, and all we were betting on was how much he would win by, weren't we?
Yeah, it's a good point, Bill. Look, your history is that you were a UKIP member of the European Parliament from 2014 to 2019. You stepped back from politics to concentrate on charity work. Very admirable, sir. More than welcome for you to talk about that if you'd like to. But I understand that you're back with the Conservatives from 2025. Is that correct?
Yeah, I rejoined the Conservatives because I'd left them around 2011. I rejoined them after the general election. I'd been, there'd been overtures to join them before it, but I couldn't possibly support a party that had Rishi Sunak and that sort of centrist, wet approach. And a lot of it was based really on local issues for me as well. But I do think the Conservatives under Kemi are starting to sound more conservative. And my generation of people who were in UKIP, and frankly at the time, Nigel, were disaffected conservatives. We were Thatcherites, or more towards libertarian than the Conservatives would tolerate. And our aim, certainly those of us who were somewhere near the top table, was always we wanted to push to a point where the Conservatives had to become conservative again. That aim has somewhat changed from the Reform perspective, and now they apparently want to destroy the Conservatives. Well, that was never really the hill that we were fighting.
Sorry, we've lost Bill there. We're having a few technical issues this morning. Not to worry. It's very interesting take from Bill there. I'm seeing in the comments that many people were finding Bill's comments, the fact that he was a UKIP member of the European Parliament in 2014-2019. Of course, he would have worked alongside Nigel Farage, would have been a Nigel Farage supporter, stepped back from politics and then joined the Conservative Party, and now seems to not agree with Nigel Farage, particularly his political direction on the right. And unfortunately, I was unable to get an answer from Bill there. Not his fault, because of technical reasons, why he, or what he would like to see different from Nigel Farage. It's not. So what Bill's saying isn't that unusual. I've heard this quite a bit. There are many people that have come towards Reform, or even to Restore, or even to Labour, depending on which way they're voting. And I'm not comfortable with the way Nigel Farage has spoken about the Conservative Party, essentially really trying to destroy them. This is obviously our oldest serving political party in the UK, and it's made some people feel incredibly uncomfortable. And that'll be because largely reform politics, restore politics, is grounded in conservative politics. Obviously, it's taking it in a different direction. With regards to Nigel, it's taking it in a direction which says we want to get our country back. We don't want the establishment to rule the country any further. And of course, Conservatives are the establishment. Kemi Badenoch is doing a job of work to try and restore that, I think. She has told her MPs that if you want to stand as a MP for the Conservative Party, you must denounce net zero. You must want to leave the ECHR. For me, that